and it's just really fun.
Very important. Because what my teacher said is it exercises your mind. It's like fun and it helps you learn.
We're here with Scott Lawrence, the media specialist at Lincoln Elementary. He has been teaching there for 20 years and has been teaching in the school district for 28 years. He's going to be talking to us about literacy and some ways of reading books in a different way so that you get a better understanding. So, welcome, Scott.
Thank you.
So what do you want to talk with us about today?
Well, I was going to talk about literacy, since literacy is the district's focus for this year. And so I brought a few books and a couple simple ideas and to give people an idea of what literacy is all about, and maybe give them some things that they can try at home or in the classroom.
Okay. Well, let's start off with some of your books then.
Some of my books. Okay. Well, first thing I brought, which is always a good thing to have and to use with your kids, is a dictionary. The Webster Student Dictionary defines literacy as an educated person, a person who can read and write. And in terms of me as a librarian, it goes a little farther than that, because just reading, well, what is reading? There's newspapers, there's fiction books, there's nonfiction books, there's how to use an index, how to find things in an atlas, how to, and so literacy involves all sorts of different things. Reading is, to quote, and from another book, another one that everybody should have, is a dictionary of quotations. It's kind of fun because anytime you're looking and you're thinking about a particular subject, it's nice to see what other people had to say on the subject. And a man by the name of Jonathan Addison said that reading is like exercise for the mind. He said that in 1710, I think.
And that's what we're here to talk about too, is exercise.
So exercise, and reading is an exercise of the mind on all sorts of different levels. I thought I would basically start with something really, really simple, something that everybody knows. The story of the Three Little Pigs.
Of course.
The Three Little Pigs. You probably knew that before you ever went to kindergarten.
I did, actually.
Did you know the real story of the Three Little Pigs?
No, what is the real story?
Well, there's a couple different versions. There's the true story of the Three Little Pigs.
I did read that book, actually.
This one is a relatively new addition, and kind of a funny story that's told by the wolf. And he says that the story of the Three Little Pigs is really about a sneeze and a cup of sugar. Well, there's another person that talks about the Three Little Pigs, and she gives some ideas. In Carolyn Feller Bauer, she gives, this has all kinds of different fairy tales and different ideas, and in her story of the Three Little Pigs, she actually shows you some activities and how, while you're telling the story of the Three Little Pigs, you can know that the Three Little Pigs didn't just leave home. They got kicked out because they were naughty. But you can cut out, as you're telling the story, you're talking to kids, you can cut out the story of the Three Little Pigs and talk about the Three Little Pigs and the fact that actually one thing that's left out in the story is not that they built three houses, and I think these three houses had similar architects, but they lived in apartments. They were all hooked together because pigs don't run very fast. And so when the big bad wolf came, they had to have houses that were close together, otherwise they wouldn't have been able to get away. The last part, of course, which we have all heard about, the Three Little Pigs, where the big bad wolf comes up and jumps down through the roof and lands in the boiling kettle of oil or water. And they end up using the wolf and planting his bones to have a flower garden. And
wow.
So, you have little activities that you can use.
So that's another thing they can do, is incorporate like three-dimensional kind of products?
You have to make literacy fun for little kids, entertaining. As an adult, though, one of the things that I would encourage people to do is not just stop with one story, for a couple of reasons. You want little kids to do things like evaluate. When you get done reading a Three Little Pigs book, say, okay, kids, how would you rate this? Would you rate this 5 as being the best book you've ever read, or 1 as not a very good book, or a 2 or a 3? And what I find working with little kids is that most little kids have no idea how to evaluate anything. They will say things like, what's the best book I ever read? And if you read the next book, you ask them, well, that's the best book I ever read. Because kids are very black and white. They have no way of measuring. So how do you give them something? You practice. And you start with, well, how about 3 is a good book, 2 is an average book, 1 is a, then you move up to, 1 through 5, 1 to 10. Maybe eventually you want to say, okay, well, how about on 1 to 100, rate this?
Oh, wow.
Then maybe you're going to get into something like, okay, we've gone to the library and we have the 3 Little Pigs, the true story of the 3 Little Pigs. How about the 3 Little Wolves and the Big Bad Pig? Which one did you like better?
Okay.
Why did you like it better? Which characters had similar traits? Which characters had different traits? The whole idea of literacy is to be able to read, to be able to write, to better yourself as an adult or as a child, but to be able to think. And thinking requires more. If you read alone, then a lot of times you're thinking, or in some cases people read just to forget about their daily life.
Yeah.
They're just trying to escape. As an adult, when you're reading with a kid your age or a small child, one of the nice things you want to do is you want to try and bring out more. You want to say, okay, let's compare, let's contrast this. Let's take and apply this to a different situation.
So it's not just reading the book, it's doing activities, asking questions, getting the kid to think about more than just the content.
Absolutely. A lot of parents will take books and they read a story. And they go, okay, well, we're done with that story. Let's read another story. Okay, well, we're done with that story. Let's read another story. Most parents and a lot of teachers don't say, okay, what was the difference between this story? Did it take place in the present or the past? Or is it in the future? What are the characters like? What good characteristics do the good people have? What bad characteristics do the good people have? Because nobody has everything both the same. Everybody has a little bit of each. And it's interesting to make kids think about the different people and the things and the places that they see in the story. And when you do that, you really take literacy to a different level. You're not just reading.
Right.
You're actually making them think about what they read. You're making them evaluate what they read. You're making them compare it to things that they know in their own life. And all of a sudden it becomes more real. A lot of different stories that we have will do that. One of the reasons why I picked the 3 Little Pigs is because there are millions of books in the public library. Everybody, if you just look around at home, you'd find books about pigs. And you can say, okay, let's make pig noises. Let's let's make pig masks. And you can get your kids to do a little play. Another type of learning, different type of vocabulary when you talk about actors and actresses and roles. And you could have somebody on the side that's a little shy go, okay, quiet on the set.
Yeah.
Things like that. Or you could take little figures and you can move them. And if you have a video camera at home, you could stop and start and stop and start.
Yeah.
And you could talk to the kids about stop action animation. And
So
they could
there's really endless possibilities for what you can do.
The more possibilities you use, the more things you bring in, especially using some kind of a theme, whatever theme it is, whatever suits your fancy at the moment. But go to the public library, go to your library in your elementary school and say, okay, I've got an idea about snowflakes, and find all the books on snowflakes. Go and find a book on pigs, and then use all of those different ideas to try and get your kids excited. But don't just read the story and stop. Take it a little bit farther. Ask them some questions. Nowadays, kids watch tremendous amount of TV.
Yeah.
And we're finding kids coming to school in kindergarten and first grade, and they don't know how to communicate.
Right.
They have a difficult time because people don't talk to them.
Right.
They go watch TV, and it's a very one-sided type of communication where you just sit there and watch. In our society today, we're missing the storytelling and the book reading together and the sitting on grandma or grandpa's lap, you know,
Yeah.
and reading a story together. This kind of thing a lot of times doesn't happen. Parents say, "Oh, I'm tired. Go watch TV." Well, TV is pretty mindless, and the kids are missing out on that. I think that using some other books and some different things will help out. And there's a lot of books, as the mask that I showed you. You know, you go and you ask and you say, okay, well, here's fairy tales and fanciful faces and how to make masks. You go to your library and you ask, and you have all kinds of resources like this that you can come up with.
Okay. So, like, pick a topic and then pick a wide variety of stuff you can work with. Ask questions. Use props. Endless possibilities. Just make sure that they're doing more than just reading.
Woody Allen had a quote a number of years ago where he said that he took Woody Allen's a pretty neurotic, funny person, but he said he took a speed reading class, and it was a wonderful class. He loved it, and he read War and Peace in 15 minutes.
Wow.
You know, it's a book about this thick.
Yeah.
And he said, and I think it's about Russia. Well, you know, I mean, if you just read and you don't understand the words and you don't compare it to things that are going on in your everyday life, it's really meaningless. And so, you know, as an adult, you know, working with a kid trying to develop their literacy, you've got to talk to them and bring something more to the table than just reading the book.
All right. Well, thank you very much for joining us, Mr. Lawrence. And now we're going to go over to Christina to learn about climbing the rock wall.
I'm with Gary Boggs today, the rock climbing specialist for the Jim Parsley Center. And for our health and wellness segment, he's going to talk to us a little bit about the rock climbing wall at Jim Parsley Center. So Gary, can you explain to us a little bit about what's so special about the rock climbing wall?
Well, I think first of all, as we look at the rock climbing wall, it's a natural looking wall. It looks just like a rock, maybe like we brought it in right from the cliffs of the Columbia Gorge. And when we have groups of younger kids in, they'll ask me, is that a real rock? And that's kind of neat that they say that, because it really does look real. But it's made out of fiberglass, and the company did a great job for us. It's 25 feet to the top, and it's kind of an L-shaped. It goes 20 feet on one side and 19 on the other. We have 4 different ropes and routes that we climb, and so it's just been a very good addition to the center.
And I always see people always having fun on that rock wall, especially the young kids. And I see that you brought a lot of equipment with you. And what caught my attention are these adorable little shoes.
I know it. I brought the smallest shoes, you know, and I had to learn about children's shoes, but this is a size 8. That's as small as they go. And we have a rule on our wall. You have to be 6 years old to climb. And I'd take a small 6-year-old to wear a size 8. But let me go through the equipment with you a little bit, because to climb, everything has to be safe, absolutely safe. And it all starts with the harness, because you must wear a harness when you are climbing with the ropes. And that's what the rope hooks to. And I brought this one. This is an adult-sized harness, and it fits a wide range of people. And it has a waist strap and 2 leg straps, and then it has a number of loops for equipment, and I'll explain those in just a second. Okay. But I wanted to hold up the kids' harness. This is for kids 60 pounds, in that range, and it has, again, leg loops, but it has shoulder straps as well for additional safety. So everything we do, we try to stay really safe. We've never had an accident except maybe somebody getting bumped a little bit, and we want to keep it that way. But on this harness, I've got a couple of things that I'd like to demonstrate. But the first thing I just wanted to mention is when you're climbing, sometimes you get nervous and your hands start sweating. And so we always carry a chalk bag along to, you can stick your hand over there and get some of the sweat off and stay dry.
I know I was definitely nervous when I was with you up there.
I know it. First time up there, it is a little bit scary. And some people are challenged by heights. Maybe you're one of those. I don't know.
Yes, I am.
We mentioned the shoes. This is an adult shoe. You have to wear our shoes when you're on the wall. These are special rock climbing shoes with black rubber soles that are very good to keep you from slipping on the wall. You don't slip very easily with these. They're a little bit of a soft material. But the complaints that I get here are the toes are so pointed. They're not comfortable at all, and the kids complain about that. But they work it out, and so you have to wear our shoes. And then we'll also, for children 10 years and younger, we'll put them in a climbing helmet. The adults and kids older than that, we don't have to wear one. But that's just a safety precaution that we have just to make sure. Now, there's a lot of equipment here. If you want to throw in anything, I'll just go ahead and go through it.
Yeah.
I might mention one of the connectors in climbing is kind of a funny word. They're called carabiners. These are both carabiners. And when I tell that to the kids, it sounds funny and they laugh. But that's what it is. And they lock down and you attach different pieces of equipment to your harness. Now, I mentioned that everything is safe and we hook a rope. We have ropes, 4 different ropes that go to the top, and there's a bell at the top. If you make it, you can ring it. The kids and everybody's concerned about safety.
Yeah.
We have an apparatus here that is just like a seat belt, and it's just so safe. It's made by Petzl Company out of France. It's an international company, and this is the best that's on the market, and this is all we use on the Parsley wall. There are others out there, but it's more expensive but very safe, and I always tell the kids, just like a seat belt, and you can't fall, and that works just real good for us.
Okay. All right, so you're talking about little kids who come on Jim Parsley Center to climb the wall. So all ages are allowed to climb this wall?
Well, I mentioned that you have to be 6, but we have some great programs, our groups. We have the expanded PE program where all of our 3rd graders in town and all our elementary schools, they all come and climb for a week, as well as go in our swimming pool. And then we do get 1st and 2nd graders and 4th and 5th as we can fit them around our 3rd grade program. So that's a lot of kids, and I was trying to think about this before we started, that the Parsley Wall has been in operation just a little over a year.
Yeah.
I have sent up right around 5,000 kids out of our elementary schools up that wall so far.
Wow,
and that's just
kids.
a little bit over 1 year. Isn't that great?
Yeah. And do they get good exercise out of it?
Oh, they do. It's a good workout. It's different than recess, and well, it's good for your arms and your hands, your grip, and really you should use more leg power than arm power. But it's a good workout, but there's more to it than just the physical part. And that's what I like to concentrate on with the kids, because I see so many kids build self-esteem.
Yeah,
Maybe they haven't had success in other areas, and then all of a sudden, sometimes we'll have a little girl, she's the littlest one in the class, and she's the best climber, and her self-esteem just soars.
Oh, wow.
And everybody gets behind. We have clapping and cheering and chants, and that's just great to hear. I'm sure everybody in the center has heard it.
Yeah,
so we build self-esteem, and we work on goal setting and problem solving in our own way on the climbing wall.
So if anybody's interested in all the wonderful effects of the rock climbing wall, what times is it open? And if they're more interested in more information, what do they do?
We are open for the public, and every day, every night during the week, we're open 6 o'clock till 9 o'clock, and we have a wall attendant there that can take care of any level of climber. You don't have to be an experienced climber. You can just walk in, and they will help you out.
And how much does it cost?
It costs, well, for adults, you have to rent your equipment unless you have your own, but it runs around $11.
Okay.
That will get you all of the equipment. For kids, it's $9. During the week, we have $2 off, so it goes $7. We have a big price structure there because we're also open on the weekends all day Saturday and in the afternoon on Sunday. And we have parties there. Some kids will have their birthday and they'll bring their party to the center, and they can have a climbing party or a swimming party.
Wow, so audience members, if you're listening, it's open to the public. So thank you so much, Gary, for being with us today. So now we're going to go to Katie and David, and he's going to be cooking us something special.
Well, after all that rock climbing, we must be awful hungry. So we're here with David Finney, who is going to show us how to make a salad. So, David, I noticed we're using spinach instead of lettuce. Why is that?
That's high in vitamin E and vitamin C, really good for you. It's better than just your average lettuce. It's got a good flavor to it. We're going to make a salad today with a mandarin vinaigrette. And we're going to start by putting some sweet chili sauce into the blender here. We'll just pour that right in there. Then we're going to take a tablespoon of soy sauce and put it in there, just like that. What we're doing is we're combining all our ingredients other than our oils, and then we'll add the oil later on. We're going to put the mandarin orange juice in there also, just like that. A couple of dashes of salt. And then we're going to put the cover over the blender and blend all this up so we get nice and mixed. And then while we have it blending, we're going to add the oil in and take this little cap right off of the top of the blender after it's running, of course. So we'll add some rice wine vinegar in with that. Then it emulsifies everything together, all the flavors come together, and then you end up with the dressing.
All right.
We're also going to cut up a red bell pepper, add some more flavor to it. We're just going to julienne that up. Watch your fingers so you don't cut them off.
All right, now julienne, what does that term mean?
That's long, thin strips. They could be different sizes. They could be medium, depending on how much of the pepper you want to go into the salad.
Okay.
We're just going to take this and throw it right in here, and throw in some oranges. And then I marinated some onions last night in the dressing that we just made over here. We're going to throw those right into the salad for a little more flavor. We'll just go ahead and throw the rest of the dressing in there too. Then we'll add a little bit of our dressing, toss it all together.
Now, David, you supervise at the Cyber Cafe, which
Yeah.
is here in the Jim Parsley Center.
Yes, it is.
And so what's special about the Cyber Cafe?
Well, the Cyber Cafe is ran by high school students throughout the district. We have one from every high school, and they come in for 3 hours a day, and they learn how to run a restaurant, learn how to order food. They learn how to customer service skills, cash register skills, and pretty much see if this is what they really want to do as their job in the future.
That's really
So we
cool.
kind of give them an idea before they have to go into it and jump right into it. So it's a good deal.
Could you explain a little bit more about the nutritional value or how many calories the salad has?
Sure. The average portion of spinach has 40 calories. The dressing is separate. This dressing has a low sodium soy sauce in it, so it's better for you because soy sauce has a lot of sodium in it. It's kind of high in sugar, but depending on how much dressing you use is the amount of sugar you're going to get. So if you want to lower, you can lower the amount of dressing on it. I got some here for you guys to try if you'd like to try some of it.
All right.
Okay.
That is really
good.
good. All right, so the Cyber Cafe, when is that open?
It's open from 11:30 to 1:30 every day that school is in session. And we also have an espresso cart that's open also, and that's open from 7:30 in the morning till 2 o'clock in the afternoon. And the restaurant's open from 11:30 to 1:30. And we make fresh soups, sandwiches, salads, just like these every day.
Well, this is an excellent salad, David. Thank you so
Definitely.
much for teaching us how to cook it.
Thank you.
And we'd also like to thank our other guests, Scott Lawrence and Gary Boggs, for showing us how to exercise our minds and body.
And if you want more information, please contact us at 313-1140. I'm Christina Armento.
And I'm Katrina Goki. Thank you for joining us for this episode of Smart Move.
Hello and welcome to Smart Move. I'm Christina Ramento.
And I'm Katie Goki. Smart Move is a program focusing on literacy, health, and wellness. On today's show, we will be welcoming 3 guests.
Scott Lawrence will feed our brains with books about snow.
Ellen Boggs will convince us to keep moving by swimming.
And David Finney will make us a special Mediterranean focaccia sandwich.
So, Christina, let's start off with you and your guest.
Our first guest today is Mr. Scott Lawrence, the media specialist at Lincoln Elementary School. Now, last program, Mr. Lawrence talked to us about different activities you can do with your children while reading. This program, we're going to talk about snow. What's so special about snow? Let's ask Mr. Lawrence. Thank you, Mr. Lawrence, for being here with us today.
Thank you for having me.
Now, let's start off with the different books you brought to share with us about snow.
I've brought several different books, all of them that deal with this, just the whole concept of snow and the fact that snow is magic. Magic for little kids, magic for adults. I think magic for all of us. So if you've ever been in a classroom where a few snowflakes start to fall from the sky, the kids just instantly jump up and run to the window. Actually, I had a master's levels class where most of the people in the class were 27 or 28 years old, and our instructor was talking, and a few snowflakes started to fall, and everyone jumped up and ran to the window. You know, snow has a magic. This particular book by Yuri Shulvitz is called Snow, and it's about a little boy that sees one snowflake fall, and everyone says, oh, well, it's just one snowflake. Then a couple snowflakes fall, and somebody says, well, it's not going to stick. A couple more snowflakes fall, and they say, oh, don't worry about it, it'll never stay. Well, eventually it does snow, and the magic of snow just is very enchanting in the way that he brings about the story. Another book that I brought, one that's really fascinating, is one called Snowflake Bentley. And this is about the man who invented taking pictures of snowflakes. And he did a lot of research on snowflakes, and he was the very first person to ever learn that snowflakes, in fact, are always 6-sided. They're hexagonal. And he took beautiful pictures of snowflakes at the beginning of the 1900s, and his pictures are still thought to be the best ever of anyone. Of course, it's very difficult to take pictures of snowflakes because you have to be very, very cold. And a lot of snowflakes are jumbled up, so he had to find just the right snowflake. Very patient man. Not many of us have that kind of patience, and it's a wonderful story.
It's based on a true story?
It is a true story. It's a biography. And I always encourage kids to read biographies about real people. You know, stories that are true, are fascinating. There's a wonderfully illustrated book about the poem Stopping by the Woods on a Snowy Evening by Robert Frost. And this has beautiful illustrations on one of the poems that was probably one of the most famous poems in the 20th century. Wonderful to look at the pictures and to be able to discuss with your children about this. You know me, I have lots of stuff. Whenever I come here, I have stuff. As a librarian, I have all kinds of things. In this book on Frank Lloyd Wright, who was really one of the fathers of modern American architecture and believed in natural forms and in organic architecture is what he called it. He takes a lot of organic, natural things and then incorporates those into architecture. And it's a fascinating book about his life and about pictures of various things. And one of the things that he showed was how you can take something very simple like a coffee filter, and you can take that coffee filter and fold it in half, and if you then fold it into thirds,
I think I know where this is going.
you fold it into thirds, you take your scissors and you cut it, you end up with sixths, because half of a third is in fact a sixth, and you end up with some very beautiful little snowflakes. And I think I've got them all in here. Let me see, some different snowflakes. And one of the things that's very, very interesting about snowflakes when you study them, either from Snowflake Bentley or from Frank Lloyd Wright, is the fact that every snowflake is unique. There has never been anyone that has ever seen two snowflakes that are exactly the same. Just like people. Every single one of us is unique.
Like
There's
fingerprints.
just like fingerprints. But there's never been one person on earth that's the same as you, Christina. You're absolutely unique. You know, when you're dealing with these kinds of subjects, you want to expand as much as you can and use different things. You know, you have snowflakes, that's magical. Kids love to do it. You can talk about sixths. Well, maybe, you know, maybe what you'd want to do is have pizza for dinner. You know, well, a half of a pizza, and if you divide that into thirds, then you have a sixth. And so you can talk to your kids and you can do a little math, learn a little bit about fractions.
You're right. So it stands to that. I see.
And personally, I like bigger pieces than that, but a sixth is okay.
Me too.
Always interesting to, you know, expand it into a different media, a different form, and in this case, the newspaper and the weather page. Okay, you're talking about snow. Maybe you're thinking about going skiing this weekend, like I am. And you can take a look at the weather page and the 5-day forecast. You can look at the mountains and what the forecast is going to be in the mountains. You can check out over here what time the sunrise is, what time the sunset is, how many hours are in the day. And maybe you want to check out and see what the weather is going to be like in Colorado and see if the skiing is going to be good there. Or if you're from Hawaii, maybe you would want to check and see what the temperature is going to be in Honolulu, and so you can talk to your relatives.
It's definitely not going to snow there anytime soon.
No, but you're from Hawaii, right?
Yes.
It's a lot of fun, you know, to take a simple subject, something that's magical like snow, and see how far you can take it out. Snow, around here anyway, usually happens in the winter.
Yeah.
And so we have seasons of the year. Seasons are very different. You know, each season is entirely different. Well, we have this particular book by Robert Frost entitled Seasons, and maybe you would want to check this book out and read some different poems at different times of the year.
Yeah, we're definitely going to have to read that next time or some other time. But
Okay.
thank you so much for sharing with all the books you have with us now, and I'm definitely going to take some of those pointers and read some to my little sister.
Okay.
Reading is for all ages. It's the best food for your brain. It's a smart move. Speaking of moving, let's learn more about swimming with Katie and her guest. Here at the Jim Parsley Center, we have a very nice pool that is open to the general public. My guest today is Mrs. Ellen Boggs. She is the executive director of this community center. She taught physical education for 17 years, and she oversees all health, PE, and athletic programs for the Vancouver School District. Today, she is going to be discussing with us swimming. Well, thank you very much for coming, Ms. Boggs.
You're welcome. Thanks for having me.
So is it very well known that swimming is one of the best forms of exercise you can do?
Well, I think there's a lot of people that know it's a good exercise, but it's kind of a secret too. If people haven't been exposed to the water and had an opportunity to work out, then they don't realize what a good exercise program it can be.
Well, what are some of the benefits of swimming?
Well, just like jogging, you know, swimming can lower your blood pressure, and you can get a workout in the water just like you can jogging. But the neat thing about the pool is that you are resistant to wear and tear on your joints and muscles. You're not pounding the pavement and stressing on your joints. You're buoyant in the water, so that's the uniqueness about the water.
Well, so can anyone do physical exercises in the pool?
Anybody can, and the first thing that people should do is consult their physician before starting any exercise program. Anybody of any age. When my children were young, I had them in the water as early as 6 months, and they were learning to swim. Little babies are just natural swimmers, and they don't have the fear. And the younger children can be exposed to the water, the better it is, I believe.
So what's a good age to start swimming?
Well, a lot of people, it's really up to the family, but a lot of people start, there's mom and tot classes, like I said, and that's what I did with my own children. There's toddler classes, preschool classes. We do offer swimming classes at Propster Pool in the summer for toddlers, all through grade school and through high school. Marshall Pool also has swimming lessons all year round, and so do many private clubs, so they could start really at any age.
Well, what about people that have a chronic illness or diabetes or are overweight? When can they start swimming?
Well, again, they need to consult with their physician, and they need to start out slow is the biggest thing. That you're not going to be able to go in the water and work out for probably 30 minutes if you haven't been used to working out. So you need to incorporate a slow warm-up period, and then increase, and increase not in just 1 week or 2 weeks, but you'll have to build up your stamina. We offer here at the Jim Parsley Center too some aquatrim classes, and people of all shapes and sizes come to the class, so you don't have to worry. And again, people are successful no matter what their body type and no matter what their past experience and their condition. If they haven't worked out for a while, the water makes them successful, and they can go at their own rate.
So what would you do in a typical workout in the pool?
Well, you would start out usually walking. A lot of the aquatrim classes are starting out walking, and they do laps, literally walking in chest deep water. You could go deeper if you wanted to, and then they start more of aerobic activity, and depending on your conditioning, the aerobic activity could be 20 minutes to 40 minutes, and then there's always a cool down, just like if you were going to jog. You need to stretch and warm up, and you need to cool down.
Well, so physical education in the water is good because you have resistance training at the same time, is that
You
it?
do. You know, the water is just a natural resistance. It's 12 times more denser than the air, so it's automatic resistance. And people sometimes are afraid to go in the weight room. They're intimidated by the machines, and you get that extra resistance in the water, and you don't even know it. The fun part about swimming to me is it's wet, it's fun, and you're in there having a good time. You're sweating, and you don't even know it. You're getting a good workout, and you don't even know it.
Now, I know that swimming helps to lower stress levels. Could you explain why it does that?
Well, again, any time that we can exercise our body and do cardiovascular workouts, it's going to be a stress reliever. We need that to release the tension in our body during the day. And similar to jogging, I know I keep comparing it to jogging, but it's just an automatic stress reducer because of the warm-up, the aerobic activity, and then the cool down.
Now, the pool that we have here at the Jim Parsley Center, what's unique about it?
Well, I think the most unique thing about it, of course, is the slide and all the water features. Everybody loves the slide, and every day it never ceases to amaze me, the kids that come in and see the slide for the first time and go, ooh. And we have buckets that dump water on you, and we have the sprays.
I remember playing with those.
Yes, and they have a smaller slide for the younger kids. So it has some unique water features that other pools in the Vancouver area don't have.
So where's the Jim Parsley Center located?
Jim Parsley Center is located, you want to enter from Plamondon Road, and it's 4100 Plamondon. And if you're familiar with where the main post office is in Vancouver, it's right off of Caples and Plamondon.
So what time is it open?
We open at 5 o'clock in the morning, and we are open 16 hours a day. Our first class in the pool starts at 6 o'clock. It's an aqua trim class from 6 to 7. Then we have a limited mobility class where we have a lot of people that have some special needs that come in from 8 to 9. Then our school programs start at 9:30 in the morning, and all third graders in the Vancouver School District learn to swim, which is pretty exciting because we are in a climate where there's a lot of opportunities to be outdoors in the summer, in the warm months, and we really believe, and our school board believes, that water safety is key for our kids to have that skill. So they swim 1 week at the Propster Pool, and then they come to the Jim Parsley Pool and swim.
Well, that must be really nice to have.
It is. And then we have open swim activities in the afternoon where the public can come. We have another aqua trim class from 5:30 to 6:30. And then we have public swim in the evening. We're open all day on Saturday, and from noon to 5:30 swimming on Sunday.
So before we go to David Finney to cook our meal, do you have any advice to help motivate people to get moving?
Well, I just want to really tell people to get moving, whether it's swimming, aerobics, walking. I know the older that I've gotten, jogging isn't my thing anymore, but I know that I need to move to stay healthy. So I just want to encourage people to do it. And don't be afraid. Like I said, there's all types of bodies in the pool, and just get out there and do it.
All right. Well, thank you so much for being on the show today.
Thanks for having me.
Well, we hope that we have managed to convince you to try out swimming for a try. And maybe you'll even pay a visit to the Jim Parsley Center pool. Now let's see what David Finney is going to make for us in the kitchen. Smart Move is about nutrition.
And with us today is David Finney, the chef instructor for Cyber Cafe.
And today he's going to be making something special, easy, and nutritious. And it's going to be good for either lunch or dinner.
It's called the Mediterranean Focaccia Sandwich. Thank you, David, for joining us today.
You're welcome. Thanks for having me.
So the Mediterranean Focaccia Sandwich, what's in it?
Well, we have artichokes, we have roasted chicken breast, tomatoes, sprouts, and artichoke Parmesan spread.
Now, focaccia sounds like something you'd have to get at a specialty store, but where can you find it?
Your local supermarkets and the bakeries, all of them make it there.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Focaccia sounds like an interesting name. Where does it come from?
It comes from the northern shores of Italy, and it's used and topped with all different kinds of things.
So, what kind of uses can you use focaccia for?
A lot of people use it for pizza, or they use it for starters in a restaurant, like before you get your salad course, to dip it in olive oil with some balsamic vinegar. Yeah.
Oh, okay. So can we hear the recipe again and what's in it?
Sure.
Just once again.
The spread right here has artichokes, lemon juice, low-fat cream cheese, and Parmesan cheese in it, and we're going to spread that down. And then we're going to put the roasted chicken breast on it, and the avocado, tomatoes, and sprouts.
All right, well, let's go ahead and get started.
Right on. Well, let me just cut this in half to make the sandwich, and lay one piece flat. And then we can spread our spread on top of that, just like that. This is kind of nice because you can make more than one sandwich at a time. You can make like 4 or 5 sandwiches. Then we're just going to spread that out like that. Then lay some of the roasted chicken breast on top of that, just like that. And then we'll put the rest of the vegetables on top, just like that.
Well, it sure does look like a pretty hearty sandwich.
Yeah, it's filling. It's filling, and it goes great with the spinach salad that we made on the last show. It's really good together.
Nicely cut tomatoes.
Then we'll just slice some of this and place this on top. If you like avocados. Oh. Just like that. Then sprouts over the top. Then close it all up.
That was quick.
Yeah.
Cut it kind of like you're cutting a pizza.
Those tomatoes are slippery.
Yeah. There we are, right there.
Now, do you use this recipe a lot at home?
Yeah, I like it because you could make a soup and you could dip the bread into the soup, or you can make it as a sandwich like we have here. And then you can also put it with like the salad we did, the spinach salad. It goes really well that we did last week. And then you could also keep it all together and then seal it up and then take it somewhere like a baseball game or something like that and cut
Yeah.
it up, and everybody can have a piece of it. Yeah.
All right, well, do you mind if we try some?
Sure, yeah, go right ahead. Here's some pieces here for you guys. There you are. And there you go.
Could you repeat for us the recipe?
Sure. It has Parmesan cheese, lemon juice, artichoke hearts, and low-fat cream cheese in it. Yeah.
It's delicious. Thank you so much, David.
You're welcome.
It was
Thank
really
you.
great sharing all that with us.
Thank you.
Well, if you would like to receive the recipe that we've done today, you can call us at 313-1140, and we'll be more than happy to send you a copy.
Now it's already the end of the show, and we hope you enjoyed it.
And if you'd like to have more information, or maybe you'd like to give us some suggestions for our next show, please call us at 313-1140.
And again, thank you to all our guests for joining in on the show. And don't forget,
This is Smart Move. And welcome to Smart Move, a Vancouver School District production whose main goal is to inform you of the smart moves you can make to enrich your life in 3 areas: literacy, health, and nutrition. Today we have 3 very interesting guests: Ruth Schaefer, who will be talking about the importance of reading to your child; Tracy Curtis Welch, the yoga instructor for the school district's Jim Parsley Center, who will explain to us the benefits of yoga; and of course David Finney, who in preparation for this upcoming summer will be making a delicious fruit smoothie. By the end of this program, we are confident that you will come away with some fun and exciting smart moves. So let's start off with our first guest, Ruth Schaefer. Our first guest today is Mrs. Ruth Schaefer. Mrs. Schaefer is the Children and Youth Services Librarian for the Vancouver Community Library. She designs, implements, and oversees the programs and events that the library offers for children and families. She makes sure that the library has books, magazines, and other types of resources available for children, teachers, and parents. Well, thank you so much for being with us here today.
You're welcome. Thanks for having me.
Yes, of course. What I want to start off with asking was, what are some ways that parents can begin to encourage their children to get involved in literacy?
Well, probably the most important thing parents can do is to make sure that reading is important to the parent. A child needs to see the parent reading, enjoying books, reading newspapers, magazines, cookbooks, just to show that reading is important. Of course, the second most important thing a parent can do is to read with their child every day. The minimum time a parent should read is about 20, or a child should be read to is about 20 minutes. Certainly more is better, but 20 minutes is about the shortest. The younger the child, the more frequently we suggest the reading go on, because 20 minutes is an awful long time for a 2-year-old to be read to. So in 5-minute increments for a 2-year-old, 10 minutes for a 3-year-old, but and make sure that you get to about 20 minutes a day.
So, what is a good age to begin this practice?
Oh, reading should begin with children from the minute they're born. We suggest that you read to children from the minute you get to hold them. You can talk with them, rock them, sing with them, tell them stories, share all kinds of sounds and words with them from the minute they're born, and looking at books with them as soon as they're old enough to really track a book visually. There's really no time that's too early to start.
Well, when should you switch and make the transition between you reading to the child and the child actually reading to you?
That's a good question. I actually get asked that question a lot, and I would say that it's really important that parents read to their children for as long as their children will let them. So if their children are teenagers and they still want to be read to, it's a great thing for them to do. Really, we say that children should be read to continually. Even when a child learns to read on their own vocabulary and reading skills are not nearly as high as their comprehension skills.
Yeah.
So we want to have parents read to their kids to increase their vocabulary, give them information that they couldn't get on their own, and just enjoy the time together as reading.
So, how does a parent know which book is the right choice for their child?
Another good question. Parents often will bring me a book and say, "Is this book good for my child?" I don't know. I don't know your child. I don't know what your child's interested in. I don't know your child's reading level. So first we have to back up a little bit. We find out a little bit about what the child is interested in. And then we have to know, can the child actually decode the words? Can they read them and understand them?
Right.
There's a pretty simple test that we suggest parents do. It's called the 5-finger rule. Have the child look at the book. You pick a page at random, have the child hold their 5 fingers up, and have them read out loud. For every word that they misread, we say put down 1 finger. If at the end of the passage they still have fingers up, then they probably can read the book. But if all 5 fingers are down, the book is probably too difficult for them. Another way that you can tell is, this is generally speaking, you can tell by the age of the protagonist or the main character in the story. The main character of the story is generally speaking 2 to 3 years older than the age of the person the book is intended for. So if the book has a main character that's 13 years old, the age book for that book is probably a 9 or 10-year-old. Of course, that's very, very general.
Right.
And then a third way you can do is look at the book. Sometimes the back of the book will say, ages 3 to 5,
right,
or grades 3 to 5. And if all else fails, come talk to a librarian. Bring us the book. Things we look at to see how long the book is, how long the chapters are, how big the print is, are there pictures. There's a lot of stuff we look at to decide whether a book is age appropriate. And then you always have to look at content. Is the child ready for what the story is about? And that's the trickiest one of all. But we know a lot of the books, and we're glad to talk with parents about any issues that may be in the book that we know of. So ask us.
Well, it seems like you really have a handle on a way to pick out a good book. But besides just reading, what are some other ways that parents can get their children involved in literacy?
Well, in addition to reading books, I would suggest magazines. Absolutely wonderful gift. They come to your house on a regular basis. They're usually on a subject that the child's interested in. So they read the whole thing. They look at the pictures. They read the captions. We suggest websites. I mean, using the computer, you have to read to use the internet. So that's another thing we suggest. Newspapers, church bulletins, any sort of printed material that comes into the house is a good thing to share with your children. And again, have your children see you read it. And discussing things with your kids. Reading books together is a really great thing. Having a parent and a child read a book together and then talk about it is a key component to increasing literacy.
Well, I've heard you talk about some special programs, some weekly programs. What are those all about?
Well, we have 5 story times at the library. 2 of them are for toddlers. And our youngest group that we do programs for are 12 to 18-month-olds. These are what we call the waddlers. They don't ever sit still. We don't expect them to sit down at story time, but we read to them as they're roaming around. Then we have another toddler story time for older kids. We do 3 preschool story times. These are 3 to 5-year-olds or 6-year-olds. And then we have a monthly program for primary grade kids called Bonkers for Books, which is books, crafts, fun, games. Presently, we're running a program called Reading Buddies, which is a program we're doing with the Volunteer Youth Corps. We're matching teen readers with younger readers for a once-a-week one-on-one reading like a reading buddy. That's what it's called, reading buddies. We have a program called Science Sleuths, which is a quarterly science program where parents and kids come to the library and they do science experiments in the library,
Wow.
but they have to do the reading. They have to read the experiments together. We also run a discussion group that's called Discussion Junction. It's a book discussion group for parents and kids. The kids are 9 to 12 years old. The parents and the child both read the book, and then we get together once a month and talk about the book. And we have about 15 families that participate in that group right now. And tomorrow night is our annual sleepover party where we invite 125 kids and their
Wow.
grown-ups to come to the library and just have fun with us. So those are the kinds of things we do. And of course we run our annual summer reading program. It's really important to encourage kids to read through the summer. Kids who don't read over the summer, when they get back to school in September, show that they are somewhere between 2 and 3 months behind in their
Wow.
reading skills from when they left school in June. So we do a big push to keep kids reading over the summer with their parents.
Well, those all sound like really exciting and a lot of variety going on. So how does someone who's interested in this begin to participate in it?
Well, come to the library. Get a library card for your kids, first of all. You can always call the library and find out what's going on. You can look at our website and see what's going on. Stop by and ask us is a really best way. Your number one resource in the library is librarians. Ask us anything.
Well, is there anything else that you would like to tell us today?
I just want to add that there's a difference between learning to read and learning to love to read. And one of the things we do in the children's department is emphasize that reading should be fun. It should be a family thing. It should be something that people look forward to do. And that reading is a fun way to learn and to have some together time with your family. So I guess that's all I'd like to say is that reading should be fun.
And what time is the library open at?
We're open most of the time, 10 o'clock until 9 o'clock in the evening. That's Monday through Thursday. I'll get specific with you. Friday and Saturday, we are open from 10 to 6. This is just the Vancouver Community Library, the downtown library. And we are also open on Sunday from 1 to 9.
And where is the library located?
It's located on the corner of Fort Vancouver Way and Mill Plain Boulevard, right across the street from Hudson's Bay High School, Clark College.
Well, thank you so much for being here today with us, Ruth.
Thanks for having me.
If you want to visit the Vancouver Community Library, again, it is located at 1007 East Mill Plain Boulevard, and you can reach the library at 360-695-1566 for more information. After learning tips for brain fitness, let's move over with Tracy Curtis Welch, who's going to tell us about the benefits of practicing yoga. She has been practicing yoga since she was 4 years old. Her mother introduced it to her as a physical practice and later taught her the spiritual aspects of it, including meditation. As an adult, she developed a home practice of yoga using videos and reading many books. She began studying yoga with a local teacher several years ago and will be attending an intensive teacher training next September to earn a National Yoga Teacher Certification. With me today is Miss Tracy Curtis Welch. Hi, Tracy.
Hi.
Welcome to our show.
Thank you.
So, what exactly is yoga?
Yoga is an ancient practice from India. It's about 4,000 years old. It is known mostly in this country as a physical practice of health and wellness.
So, when did it originate? How old is it?
It is really about 4,000 years old, although there are about 8 different limbs of yoga, and
really?
each of those has evolved separately. So physical practice that we know in this country is only one aspect of it. And
okay.
it actually came to this country in about 1829 at a conference in Chicago. A yogi from India came here and presented on yoga, and that was actually the start of yoga in America.
Wow. So, what are the benefits of yoga?
Yoga has many benefits. It can benefit a person physically in terms of strengthening the immune system because of proper breathing techniques. It can help your posture by correcting alignment and building up muscles along the spine and throughout the rest of the body. Yoga is wonderful for stress management also.
Yeah.
Again, the breathing is really good, but also building muscle tone and strengthening. And as we get older, many of us find that we tend to kind of slump in our chairs and muscles kind of stop being used. And so it can really benefit in that way also.
Well, are there different styles of yoga?
There are quite a few different styles that have come about in recent years. There is power yoga, which is known as Ashtanga in the Sanskrit language of yoga, which is really a practice that is most beneficial for people who are regularly physically active or who are athletes. There is vinyasa or flow yoga, which is actually a kind of a dance-like style of yoga, which is something that everyone can do. Iyengar yoga is another form of yoga, and Iyengar is actually a man who developed this style of yoga.
Oh, really?
Really focused on alignment, and so much more focused on the specific individual postures of yoga. So very different styles, each of them.
Yeah, it sounds like it. So how do you start yoga?
It's a good idea to read some books, look at some videos. There are yoga programs on TV on several different stations now, and probably even more important than that is to find some places where yoga is offered and go and talk with the teachers. Generally, you wouldn't want to observe a yoga class, but you would want to go in and talk with that teacher before a class and see if it feels like it would be something comfortable to try, and if you like the way that teacher approaches physical movement, and then give the class a try.
So why wouldn't you want to watch it?
Actually, most yoga teachers don't encourage someone to come in and watch it. It's not that it's not allowed, but you don't necessarily encourage someone to come in and watch because it's really a participatory kind of activity. Although, again, you know, talk with the teacher, because a good yoga teacher is going to encourage you to try it if it's appropriate for you, and is going to tell you if the class is not something you would want to try without having any experience.
Okay. Well, so how can you practice? Can you even practice on your own?
Absolutely. I've been practicing on my own for many years, and that was how I started, and didn't seek out a teacher until actually quite recently in my practice. And it's really important to try a lot of different styles. There are some great videos out there. There are some really good books. There is also, because yoga is very popular right now, there are a lot of videos and a lot of books that you wouldn't necessarily want to use if you're a beginner. And so even there, it's good to talk to somebody who does yoga, or even to talk to a teacher and get some ideas of what they might suggest as something that truly is good for beginners, so that you don't injure yourself or create some bad habits inadvertently that create an injury down the road.
So how can you tell apart a authentic teacher from one that isn't?
Well, there is a national certification, but that's just one category. That's a real easy way to tell if someone has had a certain level of training. But a good teacher is going to never require that everyone in the class follow the same set of movements in the same way, is going to allow for modifications. The most important thing in a yoga practice is breathing. And the most important thing, aside from breathing, is that each individual finds a practice that's right for them. And a good yoga teacher will always bring that up and remind people of that, especially beginners, because it's so easy to judge ourselves doing any kind of physical movement, forget to breathe, and get into that pose and make it look great. And that's not good yoga.
Oh, okay.
And so you can tell an authentic teacher by how flexible they are in allowing people to do their own yoga and learn at their own pace.
Okay, well, that's very helpful. So what are some of the different postures of yoga?
There are said to be thousands of yoga postures because yoga is so old, but there are actually only about 48 postures that are currently in use. One of the most popular and most commonly known is a sun salutation, which is a series of postures that incorporate strengthening of the back, strengthening of the leg muscles, upper body strengthening, and so opening of the chest muscles, and it actually incorporates kind of a whole body movement, and it is really the best place for a beginner to start learning. You don't necessarily, as a beginner, want to jump right in and do a sun salutation, but it's good to learn the movements that build up to the sun salutation, the different modifications, and again, a good book or video will help you learn some of that. And it's a series of movements that you can do over and over, so it's really easy to learn as a beginner and to have a practice pretty quickly and feel like you're accomplishing something, because we all in this culture especially like to feel like we're accomplishing something.
Well, who can start doing yoga?
Anybody can do yoga. There are modifications for physical injuries. For someone who hasn't been physically active for a long time, you can do yoga sitting in a chair. You can do yoga using props, blankets, pillows. There are so many different styles of yoga. It truly is appropriate for anyone. The American Yoga Association doesn't recommend yoga for adolescents under the age of 16. But again, that's hatha, the physical practice of yoga, and there are ways that even a young person can definitely be involved in yoga, including some of the physical practice. So I think what they're thinking of in that is a regular, vigorous, and intense yoga practice, which might not be appropriate for someone with growing muscles and bones still.
Right. Okay. Well, what age do you think that people should start doing yoga if they're interested?
As soon as they're interested. So it's going to be different for everyone. My 12-year-old is occasionally interested in yoga because he knows that I do yoga every day. And when he's interested, he does do some yoga. And when he's done, he's done. And I like that approach, I think, for just about anybody, unless you decide you really want to dedicate yourself to it. And then find a regular practice and don't just hit or miss it.
Well, do you have any advice for beginners out there that are looking to join?
My advice would be to ask around, ask other people that are doing yoga, read through some books, look for some videos that kind of grab your attention, and read through them, watch the videos first. Do what attracts you to yoga. So it will be different for everyone. Ask, go to a class, see how it feels, see if you like that teacher's approach, if you feel comfortable with the approach and it feels like something that you can do. Most of us are going to instinctively be comfortable with a certain style or two and not others. Ashtanga, for instance, would not be something that someone who had not ever done yoga or been physically active would feel comfortable with, and so that wouldn't be an appropriate style.
So I know that you're the instructor here at the Jim Parsley Center. When can people come in and take the yoga class?
Our class is Monday and Thursday nights from 6 to 7, and it's a level 1 beginner class. My background is in dance, so my style is pretty much a flow style. It's very much a beginner class, but I do have more experienced students also who come to the class and get a lot out of it, so anyone can benefit from it.
Well, thank you so much for being with us here.
Thank you for having me.
Did you know that you can actually make a yoga smoothie?
No, I didn't.
Yeah, it has like strawberries and guava in it.
I like strawberries and guava.
But speaking of smoothies, why don't we now go to David Finney, who's going to be making us a smoothie. Did you know that 1/3 of all cancer deaths are attributable to eating too few fruits and vegetables and too much fat? Well, today our guest, David Finney, a culinary arts instructor who manages a cyber cafe here at the Jim Parsley Center, will show us a fun and easy way to get more vitamins and minerals into our diet by making us a fruit smoothie. Welcome to the show, David.
Hi.
So why did you decide to make a fruit smoothie today?
Well, it's fun. It's easy. It's really good for you.
So why is it so good for you?
It has a lot of vitamins and minerals in it.
And what's the difference between having a smoothie and just eating the raw ingredients?
Well, when you break the fruit up in the smoothie, the minerals and vitamins come out of the fibers that are trapped in there, so it becomes more healthy for you.
That's awesome. So what are the ingredients in the smoothie we're going to be making today?
Well, we have some low-fat vanilla yogurt, some fat-free milk, some fresh peaches, fresh banana, and fresh strawberry. And then we just put them in the blender. I like to put the yogurt in first, and then the milk.
Well, also, so can I just mix any fruits together, or?
Well, no. Like pineapple, for example, is a fruit that we cut up a lot in the restaurant, and if after you're done cutting up pineapple, you can actually feel it on your skin, and it's really acidic. So you don't want to put like oranges, pineapples, too much acidity in it, because then it's not going to be a nice balance. You want a nice balance between the fruits, so it's not too strong and tardy. So it's pretty smooth, yeah.
So is this a recipe that we can find anywhere, or is this one of your own?
Yeah, well, I just, it's just a pretty basic recipe. I mean, you get nice fruits, you know, together and just blend them up with some yogurt. It turns out really good. We'll just pack it full. Pour the rest of the little bit of milk that we have left in there. Put the lid on. And blend it up. It takes about 1.5 minutes to blend because you really want, like we said, break up all those fibers and get the vitamins and minerals out of it. I blend it for about a minute and a half, and then if you want to make it, you know, you don't have time to refrigerate it before you serve it to your family or your guests, then add like half a cup of ice into it, and it just cools it down really fast.
Okay. Well, when we're blending also, I know some blenders have multiple blending options. What one do you think you would want to use?
Turn it up as high as it can go. Yeah. Just make sure the top's on it and just turn it up. So because really you're just breaking up all that fruit and then blending it into the milk and the yogurt.
Right. So what are some basic tips that you have for people that are making their smoothies?
Don't use all acidic fruits. Don't put like lemon, lime, orange, pineapple together. I mean, keep it like a strawberry, you know, that's a nice sweet fruit, some peaches, and then some bananas, and it's kind of a combination that goes together really well.
Now, I've heard that smoothies are the best when you have them right after you make them. Is that true?
Well, I like to let it sit for a little while and let the flavors combine all together, so that when you get it, then it's like you just took the fruits and blended it into one kind of fruit.
Right.
Yeah.
Well, can I have a little sample of yours?
Here. We'll just, and if you want to really get fancy, then you could just cut up a little garnish and put it on the side of the glass like so. And then
I'm dining in style now.
there's your smoothie.
That is really good, as
Thank you.
always.
Thank you very much.
Thank you for being with us
Thanks.
here. If you would like a copy of our smoothie recipe, you can check out our website at www.vansd.org under News and Publications. If you have suggestions, comments, or ideas for our show, we would love to hear from you. And you can send an email directly from our website, or feel free to give us a call at 313-1140. Thank you again to all of our guests for sharing with us some of their smart moves. And thank you for tuning in and taking an active interest in the health and wellness of your mind and body. My name is Katie Goki, and this has been Smart Move. My name is Katie Goki.
And I'm Christina Armento. And welcome to Smart Move, a Vancouver School District production whose main goal is to inform you on the smart moves you can make to enrich your life in 3 areas:
literacy, health, and nutrition. Today we have 3 extremely interesting guests.
Lisa Gresseth, a curriculum specialist, who will give us tips on how to prepare your child for kindergarten.
Louise Allen, a fitness specialist, who will be talking about the benefits of physical activity.
And as always, David Finney, who will be showing us how to make what is bound to be a delicious Italian pasta salad.
Well, let's start off our exciting show by introducing our first guest, Lisa Gresseth. Do you have a child who'll be ready for kindergarten next fall? Yes? Well, my guest today has prepared a special booklet for you, On My Way to Kindergarten. This booklet is filled with weekly summer learning activities and strategies to help prepare your child for their kindergarten experience. Let's talk with Lisa Gresseth, who is a curriculum specialist here at the Vancouver Public Schools. Welcome to our show, Lisa.
Thank you, Katie.
So, when should I register my child for kindergarten?
Kindergarten Roundup actually started on April 21st, and we'd like for all our incoming kindergartners to be registered by May 9th.
And are there any materials that I need to make sure to bring?
Yes, when you come, you need to bring a copy of your child's birth certificate, a baptismal certificate, or a signed hospital certificate, as well as their immunization records.
Now, why is it important to register early for kindergarten?
When you register early, you have a chance to be involved in all of the Kindergarten Roundup activities. For example, one of the things that each school schedules is a kindergarten visitation. This is a time when you can come with your child to visit kindergarten. You as a parent will spend time with the principal of the school and program specialists to talk about school policies and school programs. And then you'll also get a chance to meet the kindergarten teacher and talk to her about, or him about, what the kindergarten program looks like at that school. But while you're doing those activities, your child will also be in a kindergarten classroom, becoming familiar with those surroundings and meeting other children who they will be attending kindergarten with in the fall.
So what are some things that I could do as a parent to help get my child ready for kindergarten?
Well, one of the things that you can do, which you also have an opportunity to do at registration, is to sign your child up for the Jump Start program. And Jump Start is a 2-week, tuition-free program in the summer that's offered at each school for kindergartners enrolling in the fall. And the purpose of Jump Start is to engage the kids in some learning activities to prepare them for kindergarten, but also, and most importantly, to help them become more familiar with what school is, what happens in a school day, where things in school are, including bathrooms, and where the playground is, and things like that.
Well, now I understand that you've had a hand in making the handbook for kindergartners. And could you describe some of the learning strategies or activities that are in this book?
Absolutely. First, when we think about parents and helping their children prepare for school, some of the most important things that parents can do is first to become familiar with what happens in kindergarten so that they'll know how to support their child. Second, to be very in tune with how their child is feeling about starting kindergarten. And third, to continue to engage their child in learning activities at home. The purpose of the On My Way to Kindergarten packet is to bring all of that information to parents in a format that's fun and easy to use for families. So one of the first things that the packet covers is how to talk to your child about how he or she is feeling about starting kindergarten. Some kids are very, very anxious, some are very excited, some are in between. And so the suggestions that are in there will help parents work with their children, talking with them, reading books that talk about starting school and things like that.
Now, I was looking over the calendar a little bit, and I noticed that there were some fun kind of activities for them to do, like counting the chairs around the house and stuff like that. So what are could you explain a little bit about what the summer calendar is actually about?
Sure. The summer calendar provides information about what kindergartners will be doing in kindergarten in each of the curriculum areas: reading, language arts, science, and more. And then, as you mentioned, there's a calendar for June, July, and August with very simple activities that kids can do with their parents, just like what you've said, using household items, counting chairs, looking for colors, playing I Spy, just very small ways that we can help support children's learning at home.
So could you give us an example of a typical week in the summer program?
Sure. One thing that I'd like to mention about all of the weekly activities, though, is that they all use things that we usually have in our home. So there's not a lot of gathering of information or materials. In terms of literacy, we're going to look at August and the first week of August. In literacy and read aloud, the strategy is to reinforce your child's ability to hear different sounds. So, for example, if you're reading a book and you come across the word bat, and you talk with your child about how that word starts with a B sound, and to think of other words that start with that same sound. If your child has difficulty, making it into a game where you give them a clue and they try to guess what it is. For example, I'm thinking of a word that starts with a B sound, and it is something that has feathers and it flies, and seeing if your child can come up with that. Then the next part of literacy is working with a rhyme. So the rhyme for this week in August is Humpty Dumpty. Humpty Dumpty sat on a wall. A very familiar rhyme for many children. You would be surprised by repeating rhymes how quickly children memorize them as well. because it's Humpty Dumpty, a lot of this week's activities have to do with eggs. So in writing, in the child's journal, what you'll be working with is coming up with a story about a strange, fascinating thing that hatches from an egg, and then drawing a picture of it. Then in math, you'll be working on some counting and sorting activities using, of all things, an egg carton. So looking at how many eggs are in a carton, counting them, telling your child that a dozen eggs is 12 eggs, increasing their vocabulary in that way, and then using that as a sorter tray. So I'll give you a pile of quarters, nickels, and dimes, and then we'll sort them into the egg carton tray so that all the pennies are in one part of it, all the nickels, all the dimes, and so on. And that's a very important math skill. In science, looking at creating egg pots. Children love to see things grow. So one day when you decide to have eggs for breakfast, you crack the eggs maybe more carefully, wash them, and save the eggshell halves. Put potting soil in them with grass seed, and then water them and wait for them to grow. In the meantime, your child can draw or paint a face on the egg so that when the grass seed comes up, it actually looks like the egg has sprouted hair. And you're reinforcing science concepts, watching things grow, but it's also a fun activity because your child can be a hairdresser and cut the hair when it gets too long. Then another thing that you'll be doing is going to the library that week and looking for books that have to do with eggs and hatching. Some may be fanciful stories, very imaginative things. Others may be true stories about penguins that hatch from eggs or robins that hatch from eggs. And the weekly plan includes some titles and authors so that it's more easy, or it's easier to locate those books. And then that week also you'll be working with the numbers 4 and 5. So working on tracing the number, working on what is 4, how many makes 4, how many makes 5, and reinforcing that as well.
Would you have any advice for parents whose kindergartners are soon to be starting school?
I would say get involved in the kindergarten roundup process and learn more about what your child will be doing in kindergarten. And most of all, look forward to their kindergarten experience as we look forward to working with parents and ensuring their child's educational success.
Now, as a parent, how can I find out things like where my child would be attending school and stuff like that?
You can call, if you're not sure, call 313-1010 or 313-1011.
Now, even though it's before the summertime, are there any things that I could be doing right now as a parent to help my child getting ready?
Absolutely. One of the most important things that you can do is read with your child. Make a goal to read for 20 minutes a day, and it doesn't need to be in one sitting. You can spread it out. Some families really enjoy reading a story together in the morning. Some use bath time as a time to tell stories, and some at bedtime. So reading aloud is a really important strategy. In the On My Way to Kindergarten booklet, there are also more things that are easy to do at home, like saying rhymes, Humpty Dumpty and Row, Row Your Boat, things that help children become familiar with rhythm and patterns in language. And encouraging writing, encouraging math, driving through town saying, I see a light, what color is it? Just very simple things.
So you want to be focused on like simple things that a kindergartner could easily understand?
Exactly.
Is that what they're mostly going to be focusing on when they first enter kindergarten?
They will be focusing on many things. For some, the most important thing in that first month is the transition to kindergarten, new routines, new faces, those sorts of things. But absolutely, the things that parents do at home with children are very similar to the things that children will be doing at school with their teachers. At school, it's in a more structured environment. At home, we really encourage things that are very fun for families to work on together and that keep parents in tune with what their child knows. And for parents to be continually surprised about what new things their children know and seem to know all on their own as they explore and they discover the world.
And do you guys see that as more and more parents do the handbook that you guys give out, the kids do better when they start off kindergarten?
We believe that they will. When we put the handbook together, we very carefully looked at the kindergarten program, what it is that by the end of kindergarten we expect children to be able to know and do. And by starting from that point of reference, we built backwards with activities that reinforce those same kinds of understandings.
Right. So, like, say I were a parent and my kindergartner was going to be going into school, where could I pick up the handbook?
The handbook will be part of the materials that you'll receive at registration during the kindergarten roundup process, as well as the summer activity calendar that we talked about before.
And where is registration located?
Registration is at your child's home school. So once again, if you don't know where your child will attend kindergarten, you can call the numbers we gave earlier.
So do you have any closing statements for discussing the whole kindergarten aspect?
Just to, once again, be very in tune with what your child's feeling about kindergarten, and to learn more about kindergarten so that you can support those understandings.
All right, well, thank you so much for taking the time to be here with us, Lisa.
Thank you.
It is important to register your child soon to ensure that you receive an invitation to visit a kindergarten classroom this spring and all the materials to help support your child's readiness and comfort over the summer. If you are unsure which school your child will be attending, you can call us at 313-1010. And don't forget to bring a copy of your child's birth certificate, signed hospital certificate, or baptismal certificate, and also a copy of your child's immunization records. Now let's go to Christina and her guest for a fitness lesson.
Fitness is important. It's part of a balanced life and will keep you healthy. Today's guest, Louise Allen, fitness specialist for the Jim Parsley Center, will help us understand what fitness is all about. Miss Allen has an extensive background in the fitness field. As a certified aerobics instructor, she specializes in sculpting and has been for 15 years a personal trainer for people of all ages and sizes. She currently co-manages City Fitness and oversees the exercise program development. Today she will talk to us about her job and why we should include fitness in our daily lives. Thank you, Miss Allen, for joining us today.
Thank you for having me.
Now let's start off with, what is your role exactly as a fitness specialist?
As a fitness specialist, I am coordinating all of our staffing, all of our programs, all of the marketing that goes through our facility, along with my coordinator who oversees what I do, and make sure that we have enough to offer for our limitations of, not limitations, but the different ages that come into our community center, from young teens to seniors.
So all ages can participate?
All ages, with limitations to the extreme athlete.
So how can someone achieve fitness?
Well, the first thing you must do is to decide what interests you the most, whether it be aerobics, whether it be outdoor sports such as bicycling, hiking, running, walking, or typical aerobic classes, which most people think, is the place to start.
What is the difference between, let's say, aerobic and strength training?
The difference between aerobic is basically cardio for the aerobic training. Muscle strength and endurance has to do with weightlifting. That also helps, especially women with osteoporosis down the road when we become seniors, to prevent a lot of that with increasing bone density.
So there's some health benefits.
There's a lot of health benefits.
So what are some of the psychological and, let's say, physiological benefits of exercising?
First of all, you just feel better. You keep your bone density up, you keep your body fat down. Just by moving totally takes a different, makes you look at yourself totally differently. You're happier, you're more energetic, you're ready to go out and achieve whatever you wanted to from the morning on.
No, I have heard that exercising helps you reduce stress and reduce fatigue.
Correct.
How is this true?
Well, just by exerting energy relieves the stress that is built up. A lot of people that have stress hold it in, and they have no way of alleviating or pushing that out of the system. And by doing that, you're sweating, your mind is off all the stressful environment that you've been in all day long. Let's say if you're at a job for 8 hours and let's say everything has gone wrong. Well, when you come in, you sweat, you work out, you're fatigued by your energy that you've exerted there, and when you leave, you have a totally different outlook on life in general.
So it's kind of like a relaxation
Right,
approach?
right.
So how could you, let's say, target or personalize an exercise program for different people?
Well, the first thing is for that client to come in and discuss with a trainer where they want to start, where they are at that point. Some people come into our center that have never exercised before, and that is even starting out with seniors. There's always something to do for every age group and limitation. We have a lot of people that come in from cardiac rehab. They've had knee replacements, they've had hip replacements. Some people have arthritis. You know, we would send them basically to a lot of the aquatic pools so that there isn't any stress and undue pressure on their joint. So, you know, there is just a lot of different things that we can do. We start them out, especially women, you know, 2 times a week on our weight equipment. We always emphasize that they need to be moving 7 days a week, 30 minutes a day, whether they do that or not, but they can always increment it into 10-minute segments into their daily life.
Okay, so that kind of segues into my next question, which is how much exercise does a person need to do a week to kind of be considered fit?
Well, the Surgeon General has said 7 days a week, 30 minutes a day. Some people can't fit that into their busy life schedules, so they say the minimum is 5 days a week, 30 minutes a day. But actually, most people do need more than that 30 minutes. They should be incorporating at least an hour, but you can break that up into 10-minute segments, whether you take it for your 15-minute break, go walk around the building, climb stairs at work, whether you're in a multi-story building. There's lots of different options that you can do.
Now, what's the difference in exercises and how many calories they burn?
Well, walking, of course, you're not going to get as many calories. You're probably burning in 30 minutes about 300 to 400 calories. You know, running, you're going to probably increase that to be between 400 and 500, just depending upon the actual stride that you're taking and the miles per hour you're moving at. Somebody, of course, that's moving at 4 miles per hour is going to burn a lot more than somebody that's only walking at 2 and 3 miles per hour. So it all really depends on the duration and the speed that you're going at.
So as a fitness specialist, when you personalize an exercise training program, do you usually put different exercise programs in different such as running, and do you mix it up a little bit?
You have to cross-train, because what happens is your body basically goes on cruise control. If you do the same thing day after day, you're just not going to get the benefit from it. You have to do a multiple type exercise activity every day just to keep that mind and body and metabolism kind of in a shock mode so that it doesn't know what to expect. If you went in and did a step class day after day, it's like going and driving down the street. How many times have you gone and said, did I just stop for that stoplight? Well, your metabolism basically does the same thing. It goes on cruise.
Right, and also it can get kind of boring to
That's
do the
right.
same one.
That's right.
So what advice would you give to people who are starting off or wanting to and start exercising?
Well, the first thing for most people is getting started is the hardest. Then they have to decide exactly what activity interests them the most just to get going. A lot of times, bring a friend. You know, come talk to a personal trainer or an aerobic instructor who can guide you. And once you get on that system and behavior of coming in and exercising anywhere from 3 to 5 days a week just to get started, it becomes easier, and then it becomes a real guilt when you do not come in and exercise, because your body says, I feel so much better. I sleep better. I react to situations better.
So it might be harder at first, but once you get in the groove of things,
you become very guilty. You think, gosh, why am I not going today? It just becomes a way of life.
That's good. So someone who comes to the fitness center, the Jim Parsley Center, what do they need to know?
Basically, they don't need to know anything, because our trainers and aerobic instructors will guide them The biggest step is, like I say, coming in that door to begin with and deciding this is going to be a way of life that they're going to want, not because they feel they have to. You know, with cardiac rehab, a lot of these people have never exercised before, and their doctors have prescribed that they do start moving and exercising, and it just makes them feel better. And once they get started, they realize that.
So if people need information, more information on this, the fitness center and the programs, where
We
do they
put
go?
them on programs. We have, we specialize in limitations and new exercise individuals that have never exercised before. We get them started. We have programs for them. We have nutritional advice for them. If somebody is obese and they want to start losing weight, we have a program called Freedom from Diet that we suggest that they go to. It's not necessarily a diet program, but it helps them choose the right ways to eat without dieting.
Okay. So it's basically taking the first step.
It's taking that first step, walking in the door and deciding this is what they need to become a healthy individual.
Okay, thank you so much
You're
for
welcome.
sharing that with us. Now, being fit also includes a healthy and well-balanced diet. So let's turn to our expert in the kitchen, David Finney, who will show us how to make something healthy that tastes good.
On today's cooking segment, we're going to learn how to make something nutritious and delicious. David Finney, chef instructor for the Cyber Cafe at the Jim Parsley Center, is going to show us how to make an Italian pasta salad.
It's healthy, tastes good, and is easy to make. So let's learn the recipe. So David, what are your ingredients today for today's recipe?
Well, we have some salami, some Kalamata olives, feta cheese, diced up tomatoes, penne pasta, and some roasted red peppers. And we just begin by putting, it's pretty simple. This one's really easy. You just put it all in the bowl after you've cut up all your vegetables and got them all together.
Now, what kind of pasta are we going to be using again?
Penne.
Okay.
It's kind of a tube pasta. Looks just like that. You want to cook it all the way and chill it all the way. Make sure that you cool it down all the way, because there's egg in the pasta, and if it's at a dangerous temperature, then it could make you sick. So we don't want that, that's for sure.
So what's the difference between pasta you could put in a pasta salad differ from regular pasta?
Well, the pasta in the pasta salad, like it's cold, and you never have it hot. Usually everything, ingredient and dressing that goes into it's cold, instead of like a hot dish where you might add in some chicken and some sausage and like a marinara or an Alfredo sauce. This one, and we put it over the salad greens. Yeah. So we have all the ingredients in the bowl, and I like to put a lot of dressing on it because it's a low-fat Italian dressing, and I like to put a lot on there so it soaks into the lettuce once we put it on top of it. And then you flavor the lettuce along with everything else that's with it.
So you just mix it up like that?
Yeah, pretty simple, huh? This is an easy one for home. And all these ingredients you get here, you can get at your local grocery store, so there's no hidden surprises.
And you can eat it as a meal?
Yeah, it'll fill you up. Pasta is a very filling. It's kind of like beans and rice, you know. It fills you up a lot.
No.
And you just put it right over the top like that.
Now, you said that you wouldn't want to add like chicken and stuff like you usually do in a hot meal, or can you if it's cold?
You could if it's cold. You just need to make sure that all of the ingredients are completely cooled before you use them, because it can make you sick. Yeah, yeah.
Right.
And salmonella is not good for
Probably
sure.
not.
Yeah.
Okay, well, can we try some of this delicious
Yeah,
recipe?
go right ahead, dig in.
We'll try the finished product, which also has some garnishings of cucumber and tomato.
Now, do you teach your students to use garnishes all the time?
Yeah, and actually this recipe right here is on our menu in the cafe.
Really?
So yeah, this is one from the restaurant, our first one.
That's really good.
It is really good. Well, it's delicious as always, so
Thanks.
thank you for joining us today again, David.
Thank you very
And
much.
teaching us how to make the Italian pasta salad.
If you'd like a copy of today's recipe, you can call us at 313-1140 or check out our website at www.vansd.org under News and Publications.
Also, if you have any suggestions, comments, or ideas for our show, we'd love to hear from you. Feel free to call us at 313-1140 or send us an email directly from our website.
Thank you again to all of our guests for sharing with us some of their smart moves.
And thank you again for tuning in and taking an active interest in your health and wellness. My name's Katie Goki.
And my name is Christina Armento.
And this has been Smart Move. Welcome to Smart Move, a program about health, literacy, and wellness. I'm Katie Goki.
And I'm Christina Armento. For today's show, we have some very special guests joining us. To start off with, Jane Miller from the Fort Vancouver Regional Library will give us tips on finding the right book.
Marsha Ross is going to be telling us about special classes offered at the City Fitness Center.
And finally, in the kitchen, Genesee Vela, a Fort Vancouver culinary arts student, will show us how to decorate a cake.
So let's get started with our first guest, Jane Miller, in search of the right book for you.
When you go to the library, there's thousands upon thousands of books to choose from. It can be a very confusing situation. But don't fret. With us today is Jane Miller, reference librarian for the Fort Vancouver Regional Library. She'll teach us about the reference system and give tips on how to use the library to our best advantage and find that perfect book. Thank you so much for joining us today.
It's nice to be here.
So how long have you been with the Vancouver Library and as a reference librarian?
Well, with Fort Vancouver, I've been here about 4 years. Will be soon.
And so you like your job?
I do. I do. It's a great job. It's one of those kinds of jobs that if you didn't get paid for it, you'd still love doing it.
So there's so many books to choose from. Why, with all these good books, is it hard for people to select a book?
Well, I think lots of times it's they're new to the library maybe, and they don't quite know where to go look. They don't know where our collection is, the kinds of books that they want to read. And then sometimes people I just don't think quite know yet what it is they do like to read. Maybe they haven't been reading for a long time. And then on the other hand, people feel like maybe they have read everything that there is to read in the area that they're interested in, and so they need some prompting and help with getting something new to read.
So what do you do as a reference librarian to steer them in the right direction?
Well, the first thing I do is I do what we call an interview. And that interview can be very casual, and we ask the patron what they might have recently read that they really have enjoyed. And then what is it about that particular book that made them like it so much? And find out kind of what the appeal is. And then we try to match the patron with a book that has the kind of appeal that they're very interested in reading more of.
Do you find that readers are usually interested in fiction or nonfiction, or what's the occasional books they're interested in?
Well, I think it's both. Probably the greatest percentage of leisure readers probably are wanting fiction, but there are many people who also like to read the kinds of materials that we think of as read-like fiction materials, biographies, true crime. sometimes science and history that's written for just the general reader.
Okay. So you use some of these books here to help them. Is that some of the ways that you get them to figure out what kind of books they like to read or whatnot?
This is one of the tools that we use, yes. For example, we have a book that's called Who Else Writes Like? And this particular book, you can look at your favorite author and find out other authors that write in the same kind of way. This book is reading in a series. Lots of people like to read in a series. They want to read the first book that the author wrote about that particular person perhaps or situation and follow it all the way through book by book in the order that they were written. So this is a real good way to find out how to what the next book is in a series.
Oh wow, that would be very helpful. I know that I've wanted to read like Wrinkle in Time series and I've never been sure exactly.
Yeah, we have ways of looking that up for you.
That's great.
Yeah, this is a book that has been around for a while in different editions. It's kind of a funny name. It's called Genreflecting, and a genre is a type of book like a Western or a mystery or whatever. And so this book helps people who like particular genres to find a good book to read in, like say, their mysteries or Westerns or whatever. This one kind of works sort of the same way. This is called What Do I Read Next? And there's a whole series of these. There's What Do I Read Next? What Mystery Do I Read Next? What Romance Do I Read Next? And so on and so forth. And there's a new one that comes out every year. And they're very good tools to help people find something to read the next time. I also might mention that the library has online resources like this. We have in one of our online resources, we have an actual program, What Do I Read Next? We also have what's called Novelist, and that online resource will help us to help people find what they want to read next as well. We have it in the library, and they can also log on at home and be able to have access to it.
So those are kind of the reader services that the library provides.
Yeah, those are some of the outward type of things that we do. We also do book lists. I've recently started what's called Reader Tips. And these are just little short lists, quick lists that give people an idea about a certain theme. For example, the one that I just put out is Winning Titles Pacific Northwest Book Awards. So this one has some of the book awards on it from the past several years. And we recently had our 50th birthday for the building at Vancouver, and so I did 2 book lists for that. I did one on the headliners from bestsellers for. Actually, the headliners is the awards from 1963, and the bestsellers is the headlines, headliners from 1963. So, so we're doing some of that too, and leaving those out for people to pick up when they're in the library.
That seems very informative. So you mentioned your book, Genreflecting, very creative title. What is genre fiction, actually?
Well, genre fiction is things like, as I mentioned, Westerns, romances, horror fiction, Stephen King. There's adventure, like Tom Clancy. Science fiction with people like Ursula Le Guin, who's
my favorite science fiction writer, actually.
Okay, and you were mentioning Madeleine L'Engle in the series. Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. So they're all broken down.
And in the library, we have browsers that are pretty much genre fiction, and they're paperbacks, they're trade paperbacks, and they have stickers on them for each of the genres, and so people can go and browse and pick out a book that way. Or on our regular fiction shelves, we have the books, the hardback books, and some paperback books that have the stickers as well. So that kind of helps people find their genre without necessarily knowing who all the authors are. They can just kind of browse the shelves and find it.
Okay. Okay, so they're not really, so are the books separated by authors, or are they separated by?
Well, the fiction books in the library are on the shelf alphabetical by the author's last name. The nonfiction books, if a biography, for example, is on the shelf in a different section, is on the shelf by the last name of the person that it's about. And they're both biography and autobiography. An autobiography is a person who writes a book about himself, whereas a biography is written about someone else. But they are on the shelf by the name of the person that they're about, not the person who wrote them. And then the nonfiction section in the library is by Dewey Decimal System, and so you kind of have to know what the subject is. True crime, for example, is in the 364s.
Okay. So does the library, do they sponsor book clubs?
Yes, most of the branches in the Fort Vancouver Regional Library District do have a book club, and they meet generally once a month. They are led by one of the library staff, and the library staff person and the people in the club decide what books they're going to read, and then the library supplies them. And it's a very enjoyable thing to get to be a part of, because you end up lots of times reading things that you wouldn't read otherwise, and you find out you really like them. And you know.
Definitely. So what about consulting news reviews in magazines and newspapers? I mean, are those books available for checkout at the library?
Yes, we do have access, of course, to book reviews. We even have all of the book lists in our card catalog. There's a place within the card catalog system where you can get the different bestseller lists and so forth. There is a little bit of a caveat here, because if something is very, very popular, if it's a bestseller type like Nora Roberts or one of the others, or if it's been on TV recently, like at Oprah or somebody like that, chances are it's checked out already, and so you have to get on a waiting list.
Okay.
But they're there.
Well, thank you so much for telling us so much about the books and finding the right book. It was great.
Okay.
So now, like Ms. Miller said, there's many ways to get involved with reading. Make sure to visit the Fort Vancouver Regional Library to check out what they have to offer. The library address is 1007 East Mill Plain Boulevard, Vancouver, Washington, 98663. For more information, you can also call them at 360-695-1566. Reading is definitely a good way to get our minds moving, but now let's turn to Katie and her guest and learn how to get our bodies moving.
Today I am joined by Marsha Ross. She has been working in the field of physical fitness for 23 years. Currently, she is the Fitness and Wellness Coordinator for the Jim Parsley Center. She is going to be discussing the variety of classes that you can attend here at the Parsley Center and what they have to offer you and your health. Well, thank you so much for being with us here today, Mrs. Ross.
Thank you for having me.
Now, one question I'd like to start off with, why did you get interested in the field of fitness?
Well, actually, I have been involved in physical activity all my life. I was sort of born that way. But somewhere back in about 1976 or 1977, I decided to take a pre-ski conditioning class called aerobics, which was something I'd never heard of before. And here I am.
Okay. Well, why is fitness such an important component of a healthy lifestyle?
You know, actually, instead of saying fitness, I would like to use the words physical activity. Kind of encompasses more things. It means moving around. One of the things about physical activity, very important aspect, is that it is the #1 prevention of disease. That should kind of put it all together. Also, you know, when you get into physical activity or fitness, you start to feel better, you look better, you sleep better.
I know.
That's a good thing, yeah. Good stuff.
Now, for someone that's interested in getting physical, why would you recommend the City Fitness Center here at the Parsley Center for them?
I think, well, we're a community center with the City of Vancouver's Parks and Recreation program. And we're very homey, and we're very nice, and we're friendly, and we have a large variety of programs that we offer for all ages and all levels.
So what are some cool features about the actual setup of the fitness program there?
Well, for one thing, over here at the Parsley Center, everything's brand new. So that's really good. We have state-of-the-art exercise equipment and a lot of really great things in our aerobics room. It's real nice here.
Now, what is the staff like that is posted at the fitness center?
Our fitness center staff we have different kinds of staff. We have personal trainers, we call them group fitness instructors, and we also have a wonderful kind of selection of volunteers. But the staff themselves are all certified and or degreed in the field.
That must be nice.
It is very nice.
So while someone is starting to get into exercise, a lot of times they start off not knowing really even where to start. So do you have any classes that people can attend that are beginners?
We do. We have a lot of very low-level type classes, some low-level just regular dance with the old-fashioned dance aerobics, low-level step classes. We also offer some specialty classes like the yoga and the Tai Chi, which are really a good place for beginners, as well as a class where you can sit in your chair for the whole hour.
Now, people that like to exercise at home but still want to get into the gym sometimes, what are some programs that they can use?
Oh, that's great. Yeah, we have what we call a home exercise program that we set up for them. And we actually have them come in. They get to spend an hour with a trainer, which is really good. And the cost is like $35 or $40. It's very inexpensive. You leave with a whole program that you take home with you, some what we call resist-a-bands and a manual. So you're all set, and you can just go home and do that. It's great.
Now, all across the nation, lately there's been a sudden surge in interest in yoga and Pilates and things like that. So how's the City Fitness Center adapted? So what are their, like, I guess you could say alternative exercise programs?
Classes, yeah. We have, and actually they're called mind and body classes, and there has been a great surge in those lately. So that's a good question that you asked. We do have yoga, which is great. We have two levels, a high level and a low level. We also have Tai Chi classes, same thing, more beginning type level plus a very high level. Then we have the Pilates, and we have another one called Nia, and it's kind of more modern dance with the core body conditioning, plus they do some of the what we call martial arts types movements where you'll stop and concentrate on what you're doing, and they're so fun. Very fun.
Well, that does sound like a lot of fun. Now, I also understand that you have a program that's only going to be running for a short time, but it's called Fighting Fear with Fitness.
Yes, thank you for asking about that. So I brought my notes here just in case. That class is going to run for 3 Saturdays in May. And Fighting Fear with Fitness is actually a self-defense class for women only, which I think is very important. It is taught by a woman. She's been doing programs for the Portland Police Department for a very long time.
Wow.
We're going to, in fact, the dates that that's going to run are the 10th, the 17th, and the 31st of May. And it's 2 hours on Saturdays, and the times would be, well, 10:30 to 12:30. How's that? The cost on that class is $30 for a non-member and $20 if you're a member at our center. So it'll be a good class.
Yeah, that sounds really interesting.
Very, very good class.
Now, I've also heard of a class called Get Fit As You Sit.
Oh,
and
yes.
This sounds really intriguing. So
yes, that's what I mentioned, where you can go in there if you're a beginner. It began as a class for people who had limited mobility or were unable to stand, and take a whole class for an hour and dance around.
Right.
And so actually we send beginners in there. We have people that use their wheelchairs in there. And also if you just can't stand for a whole hour or 45 minutes for fitness class, you can sit in your chair. They do cardiovascular conditioning, so there's some real fun upbeat music, and they move around in their chairs. They do strength work, and they use the surgical tubing and Dynabands or the resist-a-bands, free weights, and other things. We have balls, squeeze balls, and all kinds of fun things. And they also do stretching right there in their chair. They never have to get out, so it's a great class.
That is really cool.
It is a good class.
So now we know of that class, and then are there any other classes for people that have disabilities?
We do have some other classes, and we've tried to integrate our classes so that we can get in people that are both have mental disabilities and physical disabilities. We do run a specialty class for people with mental disabilities, which is just loads of fun. And also the nice thing about our weight equipment is we have many pieces that are wheelchair accessible. So that's a real good thing. And then I do have some specialized trainers that work with disabled people.
Now, what is the age range for the fitness center?
Basically, the age range is we do allow 13-year-olds to come in, but they need to be accompanied with their parents up through age 15. And there is some equipment limitations with that.
Right.
Well, however, if they choose to go into the aerobics room, they just need to have a parent with them. But, there's not so many restrictions on that.
So what are the price ranges on your classes?
Well, I'm going to give you a sample of an adult single ongoing membership fee, and then the best thing to do would be to get into our website to go for all the details. But basically it's $31.50 a month for, that would be just fitness, and that's with the membership. And if you wanted to attach aquatics onto that, which includes 3 pools, one's the city's and 2 belong to the school district, so this is a great partnership. Then that would be $42 a month. But we do have senior discounts and family rates.
And also, what are the hours of the fitness center?
We basically open on Monday through Thursday from 5 a.m., or we open at 5 a.m., and we're open until 9. Fridays, we open at 5 a.m., but we close at 8. Saturdays, we open at, 8 o'clock, and that goes until 6:30. And then on Sundays, we'd be open from noon until 6.
Okay, well, thank you so much for being with us here today, Mrs. Russ.
Yeah, you're very welcome. Thank you for having me.
Now, it was very nice of Mrs. Russ to take the time to discuss fitness with us. And after having such a tough workout, you've got to be ready to treat yourself at least a little bit. So let's head over and join Genesee to learn a little about the art of cake decorating.
For today's cooking segment, we have Genesee Vella, a Fort Vancouver culinary arts student. She's going to show us her award-winning culinary skills.
She is a 2-time VICA regional winner in commercial baking and has done catering for the school district and the mayor's city address.
Today, she'll show us how to decorate a cake.
Well, thank you so much for being with us here today.
Thank you for having me.
Now, why did you become interested in cake decorating?
Well, I have several family members who are in the restaurant management type of industry, and I became interested in cake decorating when my mom took classes at the Wilton's decorating at Michael's. So that's how I got interested in cake decorating.
So what kind of tools are you using? I'm interested.
There are all kinds of different tools for cake decorating. Today all I have are cake decorating knives, spatulas, and a decorating bag.
Now, are there different kinds of frosting varieties?
There are several different types of varieties, such as buttercream and royal icing are the most common. You can change buttercream icing to be chocolate, which we're going to use today, or lemon, orange, raspberry. So there are several different types.
And what kind of events could you use this cake decorating skills for?
Well, weddings, birthdays, Mother's Days, Father's Days, any type of occasions.
All right, well, let's go ahead and start making this delicious cake.
Okay. I'm going to be making a German chocolate cake. So
we can smell it.
For the inside, the filling is coconuts, pecans, and it's made with a caramel base. That's how we get it to stick together. When you're putting it in the center, you don't want to put it all the way to the edges, because when you're putting on your outside, you don't want it to come out. You don't want to put too much in the middle, because if you do, the cake will slide. You're going to put the top on. Now, then your top goes on. You want to push it down just a little.
It's like a sandwich.
Yep, just like a sandwich. And on the outside, you're just going to put the chocolate buttercream icing on the outside. This is going to be the glue to hold on our crumbs. So it doesn't have to be very thick, just very thin.
Now, did you make all of this yourself?
Actually, Clark College came to our school today, and they helped us make all this delicious icings and fillings, and they provided us with the cakes.
Oh, that's nice.
Yes.
So you are in the Fort Vancouver Culinary Arts Program? Correct?
Yes, I am. I've been in there for 2 years. So.
And you do all types of cooking, not just cake decorating.
Well, mainly I do baking. There's a small crew. Everybody does it, but there are a small crew of bakers, me and 3 other students.
And do you bake also for lunches and stuff?
Yes,
as well?
we do the patron tours that are at the cell. Our classes do those. All right. So we've got the sides done. This is the fun part. Okay, you're going to lift up your cake, and you're just going to turn it into your hand. You're going to peel back the paper. This is crumbs. It's nuts, like cookie crumbs and butter, sugar that have been baked together.
So now you're just rolling it and sticking to the frosting?
Yep.
Ooh.
Okay.
That's a nifty trick. Yeah.
And here is a pastry board. And you're going to take the top of your cake and center it as best as you possibly can. And flip it over. And put it back right there. And then you're going to take more of this good filling, and you're going to put it all over the top. And this, you can be as generous as you want, because it is the top of the cake.
Exactly.
All right.
Do a lot of people drop the cakes?
Yes, there have been some instances where people have dropped cake, but it's usually on the table, and sometimes you can save them, and sometimes you can't. There you go. nice thick layer.
That's what we like.
Oh yeah. Okay. Now I'm going to show you a simple shell border. This is a star tip. It's very easy to do. It goes on the bottom of the cake.
So you're kind of just moving it in an upward kind
Yeah,
of motion.
it's an upward, downward motion. Sorry. It's hard at first for some students to do it just because it's a harder technique because it's with your fingers is what you have to work with. If you push the bag too hard, it doesn't work as nicely. And on the top of the cake, you do little tiny rosettes.
And those are just circles and then a dab on the top?
Yep, just circles and a dab. And that continues on to the rest of the cake. And then to finish the cake off, you just do one right in the center. And you take a maraschino cherry and you top it off.
Well, that looks really pretty. Now, and usually you would go all the way
Yes,
outside
you
the
usually
edges?
go all the way around the edges.
For your competition, what kind of decorating techniques did you use for that?
Well, I went to regionals and we didn't do any cake decorating. It's when you go into the state level that you do a cake decorating, which the cake is almost about the exact same size. There you get more complicated and more detailed with roses and borders that are more elaborate than this. So it's just your skills is what basically is going to get you there.
Did you use a lot of different colors of frosting too?
I did a patriotic cake. My family was in the service, so I dedicated my cake to them. I did roses, and they had leaves and tears that came off to the side, and it was red, white, and blue.
That's really cool. Now, how do you dye the frosting if you wanted a different color?
Okay, there are two different types of dye. There's like a paste, and it's a coloring, and there are liquid colors. I work with a paste coloring because it doesn't change the consistency of your frosting. Changing your frosting consistency will determine how good your flowers come out and how long your borders will last. People who like to use liquid because it's easier to incorporate into the frosting, it's just basically your preference.
Now, are there other types of heads that you can use besides the star?
Yep, there are hundreds of different types of tips.
Wow.
Yeah. So to
I
me,
can imagine.
Yeah, there are different tips for everything. To tell you the truth, you don't always use all those tips. It depends on what kind of. Some people just use star tips and flower tips, and that's it. Some people just have a basic 5 different types of tips.
Probably depends on how complicated you
Yes.
get.
Now, also, where would someone that would be interested in doing some elaborate cake decorating, where do you think they would go to buy some of their materials?
I buy most of my materials at Michael's. There's also the Decorette shop, and it's located in Portland. I know Michael's offers 3 different classes from beginning to expert. I also did classes at Clark College. They go from beginning to advanced, and I did a beginning course.
Well, that's really cool. Thanks for joining us here today.
Yes, thank you
for
so
having
much.
me.
It looks beautiful.
Thank you.
And also thank you to all of our guests and the time that they took to give us some tips on making smart moves.
And if you have any comments or suggestions for our show, we would love to hear from you. You can call us at 313-1140 or email us directly from the Vancouver School District website at www.vansd.org under News and Publications.
Well, hopefully today you'll come away from our show with some creative and healthy ideas. Until next time, this has been
Smart Move.
Hi, I'm Katie Goki.
And I'm Christina Armento.
And welcome to this year's last episode of Smart Move.
As we set you off for the summer, we wanted to end the show with an episode discussing summertime activities.
Today on the show, we'll be speaking with Teresa Torres, a librarian at Cascade Park Community Library, who will be discussing why it is important to read to babies.
A representative from the Vancouver Bicycle Club will be joining us, discussing bicycling for fun and fitness, and also give us some bike safety tips.
And of course, David Finney, who will be making what is sure to be a delicious fruit salad for the summer.
So get ready to kick off summertime with some smart moves, and let's meet our first guest.
With summer coming up and spring in season, there will be more time to get outside, park on a bench, or underneath some shade and read. While it is important throughout our lives to feed our minds with books, there can't be a more critical stage to read than when a child's mind is developing. Today, Teresa Torres, a community librarian from Cascade Park Community Library, will be discussing reading to your children with us. Welcome, Teresa.
Thank you.
So, what is your role within the library system?
I'm the community librarian at the Cascade Park Library, and as that person, I do a lot of different things like doing programming and selecting books for the library, but one of the things I do is story times with babies.
And why is it important to read with babies?
First of all, it's a bonding experience. I mean, you want to make that connection with your baby, and that's going to make a wonderful memory. Secondly, it helps your child to become a better reader. As you read a lot to them, they're going to become interested in books, and they're going to be wanting to read more as they are able to read.
And then how does it help them out in the future when they grow up?
Well, children who are better readers later become usually better, more successful students, which usually leads to people being more successful adults. And I'm not just talking about having a good job or something like that. Studies have proven that people who read a lot are usually more empathetic people, and they come up with solutions for problems, often because they've maybe read a similar situation in a book, but it just helps you out throughout your life.
When's a good time to start reading to babies?
Well, if some people start reading to their babies before they're even born, or you could be really well planned and take books with you to the hospital when you're in labor, but for most parents, that's a little bit too soon. Those first few weeks of life are kind of a blur. So just start as soon as you possibly can.
What about reading to them when they're still inside the womb?
There have been studies done, and children who were read, or babies that were read to in the last 3 months when they were still in the womb, they have done studies where they've read those same stories to them afterwards, and they've proven that they recognize the stories. Their heartbeat goes down. They become much calmer. So maybe that's a good thing to try. You know, read to your baby, and maybe they'll be calm before they're born, and maybe they'll be calmer babies. I don't know.
So, how do you and why do you read to newborns? I mean, because can they even see or understand what you're saying? Or?
At first, they aren't really. Of course, they're not going to be really understanding the words, and they're not even going to be able to see the pictures that you're showing to them. And so at first, when you're reading to them, it's just so they can hear the sound of your voice.
Right.
And you can basically read whatever you want to them. You can read Time Magazine or the latest thriller or whatever. And it's important for them to see your face, to see your mouth as it's moving, because that helps them later on as they're developing speech. It helps their brain to develop. And then as they're starting to sort of recognize the world and wake up, you can start showing them books. A really good example are these black and white books, board books, because babies at first aren't seeing colors, but you can just show them the book and talk about the pictures in the book. You don't have to, there's no words in this. So
Interesting book.
Right, but it all relates to babies. You can talk about the baby bottle or the sail, and you just make up words because, again, they're just needing to hear the sound of your voice. And then as they get a little bit older, you could start showing them more board books. This is a very famous one, Goodnight Moon. And as you're reading it to them, again, you don't have to read straight through. You can just talk about the pictures and then just starting to read the words to them.
And does it matter for like the size of the book? Because I noticed some of these are really like big.
No. Again, I think that the books with the big pictures really capture their attention.
Right.
And then I suggest trying books that have pop-up books are really good ones. Of course, kids really tear them apart, or lift the flap books.
Right.
Some books you might want to put away and not let them have until later on, but you can use them during your reading time. So here's a good example of a lift the flap book. And if you think about a baby, babies love to play peekaboo, and this is the same kind of idea, that they're,
Right.
you know, it's that anticipation of what's under the flap.
I've also seen some books that have a lot of textures in them, like like soft things and then rough things.
Right, because you're getting the baby to interact with the book and making the book a fun thing.
Right.
And I want to add something else. A lot of times people tell me, oh, you know, they've started reading to a 3-month-old, and 3-month-old are starting to grab things. And so then they get upset because the baby grabs the book and they think, oh, the baby's not interested. What it is the baby, all babies explore through their mouths. And so what they want to do is put that book in their mouth. So,
eat the book.
Right, exactly. So maybe it adds fiber to their diet, but meanwhile, you should give them something else to hold on to, because it actually helps the baby concentrate so they can actually listen to you reading.
Right.
So.
And did you have any other suggestions for possible books to read?
I brought a couple of my favorites. This is a book that's good because it's a repetitive book, and you're saying the same things over and over. I went walking, what did you see? You know, and then you see a brown dog, and it brings out colors. It uses the same phrases over and over again, and kids love that because they can anticipate things. And this is just a regular story that I happen to love. Again, the pictures are really big and bold. And what's wonderful about this is a Christmas book, but what's wonderful about it is you can really throw yourself into this, you know, and I tell parents, you know, kids aren't going to be critical. Do voices, be crazy, be nuts about it, you know. That just makes the stories that much more fun.
So how much time should you spend reading to your child?
The studies say 20 minutes a day, but some kids are going to want you to read all day long to them. And others, 2 or 3 minutes are about as much as they can stand.
Right.
So I tell parents who are really frustrated, you know, that their baby is running around, if you could go ahead and read the book to them, maybe that, especially a child who's just learned how to walk, may not want to sit still. So you could just sit down on the floor and start reading the book, and the child can kind of start toddling around. The other thing you can do is wait until they're tired. And if you make reading a routine, like at nap time or bedtime, they're going to start to anticipate it, and it's something they're going to look forward to, because you want reading to be fun. It's not supposed to be a punishment. It's not like, we're going to read this book now. But, you know, you just really get into it and enjoy it with them.
So can they be doing other activities while you're reading to them? Or is
I think so, yes, yeah. And in fact, when I do story times with a group of children, because they get so distracted because there's so many other kids, we do a lot of acting out of the story, and you can certainly do that one-on-one. If a book is talking about bouncing up and down, have your child bounce up and down or turn a somersault. Let them do all that, because again, that makes it fun.
Now, when you're talking, when you're reading to your children when they're newborns and such, what's a good position to like hold them in? Or
I haven't really never thought about that. Hold them so they can see the book, I guess. Snuggle up with them. You know, that's the main thing. And make it comfortable. I mean, some people like to lie down on the bed with their child, or just maybe when they're really little and still aren't really holding themselves very well, you could prop a pillow up under them. But yeah.
And we've also talked to some other guests that have been on our literature shows, and they say that they like to incorporate, like after they read a book, to do an activity that kind of reflects on it. And while these children are really small, is there like activities that you ever have them do afterwards?
There's a lot of books on finger plays and little games that you can play with kids, and I encourage that because it brings out rhythm and rhyme, and that's another really important thing to get your child's brain to develop. And so there's lots of wonderful, we call them lap jogs, you know, you bounce the baby on your knee, or Itsy Bitsy Spider, all of those kinds of things. Again, it's helping their coordination, and it's rhythm, and it's fun, and it's singing.
Does the library system have any kind of programs that are set up to help parents?
Yes, we have, all the libraries have, you know, books and babies or toddler times or something like that. At Cascade Park, we do what we call a lap sit program, and we do it twice a week. It's the same program, Tuesdays and Fridays. And we go for about 20 minutes, and basically we do a lot of singing and the finger plays, and we do 3 books. That's the maximum we can do. And then it's a time for parents to sit with other parents afterwards and talk. I also like to point out that at the lap sit, we really expect the parents to participate. The kids will do a lot more and will find it much more fun if mom is also singing Wheels on the Bus with them than if mom's just kind of sitting there. So.
Right. Do you usually have a pretty good like group turnout for these kind of things? Or?
Yeah, in our little library, we average about 20 kids and 20 parents, often more than that, but that would probably be a good number
So for parents that are deciding that they will do this kind of activity, what do you have any other suggestions for them?
As far as reading to their babies or
Right.
coming to the library?
Well, you could do both.
Okay, reading to your baby, it's not just reading the books that you have in front of you. I encourage parents to also point out words as you're driving down the street. I like to ask kids who come to the library, I'll say to them, you know, even before you start school, I bet you already know how to read, because stop signs.
Right.
Every kid figures that out. And for them to make that connection and realize that they can actually read that, you know, is kind of a big eye-opener for them. So I tell parents, you know, wherever you go, point out things. Point out, if you're in the grocery store and the kid's bored, you hand them the Wheaties box and point out the word Wheaties and start. I'm not advocating that parents teach their kids how to read at the age of 3 or anything like that,
Right.
but just to get that connection to the words and the fun of language. And I will say that I also encourage parents that it's okay to run your finger along the words, because
some people do that.
yeah, because the kids then make that connection.
They follow.
Right.
Left to right.
Right, right. And it's fun to see a 3-year-old then who isn't actually reading the book, but is looking at but he's looking at a book and he's doing that, you know, and he
Yeah.
thinks he's reading it. And that gives him more confidence later on when he actually starts to learn how to read.
And then, did you have any library suggestions or?
You know, a lot of parents come to the library and they are, especially with really tiny children, they're kind of reluctant about checking out books because they're afraid of that their child might destroy them or something.
Yeah.
So I encourage them to come and talk to me. We have lots of board books. That's a really comfortable way to start your baby out with the library. And we have books on tape, even for the little tiny kids. And so and it just teaches their child then that these are books that have to be returned. They have to be treated with respect. But, you know, it's not the end of the world if a page gets ripped either. I don't want parents to be afraid of the library.
Also, are there any other forms of books that are suitable for reading? Like, are there any like interactive CD-ROMs that you've ever worked with? Or?
No, I haven't, but those are another way. I just want to encourage parents, though, not to let other things come in the place of the parent actually reading to the child. I think having a child listen to a book on tape or doing the computer is fun.
Right.
But
not like every time.
Not in place of the parent.
Okay.
So.
Well, thank you so much for
You're
being
welcome.
with us here. Now, after we have read to our children, what we want to make sure they do is maybe buy their first bike. So now we're going to go over to Christina, who is going to be discussing bicycling.
Riding is for fun and fitness, so it's time to get your bike ready and enjoy a good ride. Steve Dursbeck, the president of the Vancouver Bicycle Club, is our guest today, and with him is his bicycle. Mr. Dursbeck has been an avid cyclist since 1997. His average cycling mileage is around 4,000 miles per year. He made his first 100-mile ride of the year on May 3rd. So let's thank him for joining us today.
Thank you for
so
having me.
much. So let's start off with, what are some of the health benefits of riding a bike?
Well, some of the main benefits to your body are your increased cardiovascular health and increasing your lung capacity. You'll have greater stamina from getting in condition, getting your lungs and heart into condition. And riding a bicycle keeps your heart rate at a higher rate over a long period of time, and you can develop your body that way.
It must also be really good for your legs, too.
Yeah, that's true. It's good workout.
Good all-around workout, okay.
Yeah.
So what are some of the other benefits besides the health benefits?
It feels good to be out in the countryside, riding under your own power. It feels good to ride to work or ride to the store under your own power and not be a slave to the automobile. So that's another benefit to riding a bicycle.
So it's very environmentally friendly.
That's right.
And saves you lots on gas, huh?
That's right, it does.
So what do you need to get started in bicycling?
First, you need a bicycle.
That's important.
That's the main thing. A bicycle that's in good working order, and they can come at any level of cost as well. And the second thing I would say is you need a helmet. And that before you get on your bicycle, you need to have your helmet on. So those are the main things. I mean, you can ride your bicycle with your helmet on and wear any clothes or anything for that matter whatever you're comfortable in.
All right, so what are some things to consider when purchasing a bike and purchasing a helmet?
Okay, well, we'll start with a helmet.
Okay.
The helmet should be, if you have an old helmet, look inside for a label, certification label. It should say certified by CPSC, which is the Consumer Product Safety Commission. Recent years, in most recent years, they're the only agency that authorizes or certifies helmets for safety. And so if you have one that doesn't have any certification, or if you have a helmet that has some other certification, I would be sure to get a new helmet with the CPSC rating in it. And another thing is to make sure that the helmet fits snug. You don't want it flopping around on your head. We can get into helmet fit if you'd like to, too. But, and should we do that? Should we get into helmet fit?
Yeah, go ahead.
Okay. Okay. I'll throw those over there. First of all, the helmet should be worn horizontally on your head, or I mean, level on your head.
Okay.
I see a lot of people riding like this.
Yeah.
Doesn't do your forehead much good if you happen to land that way. So the helmet should be worn level on your head, and like I said, it should fit snug. It shouldn't flop around when you do that. And then the strap should make a nice V that comes down and meets below your ears, like say 1/2 inch to 1 inch below your ears. And it should fit snug. You should be able to only get 2 fingers between your neck and the strap. And when you open your mouth wide, the helmet should pull down. Mine's a little loose right now, but you'll forgive me for that, I guess. So that's the basics of helmet fit. Okay. Most new helmets have this device on the back, which keeps it more forward. It prevents it from sliding back on your head.
I see.
And as far as a bicycle, you can get any kind of bicycle that fits you comfortably is what you want to be on. Comfort is the main thing. You don't want to be stuck with a bicycle that causes you discomfort or is too heavy for you to push and that kind of thing. There's mountain bikes, there's hybrid or cross-training bikes, and there's this type of bike, which is a road bike with the drop handlebars. And it really is it all depends on what you're comfortable with riding and what kind of riding you want to do.
Okay, so would you say that could you ride for instance, this type of bike on mountain terrain?
No, I wouldn't. That would be rather dangerous because these skinny tires on this bike, in soft dirt or on rocks, they have no stability. You want to have a mountain bike with knobby tires, or a cross bike with wider or knobby tires on it, in order to ride off-road.
Okay, so there's just different types of tires for
Right.
different types of terrain. Okay.
And if you're going to ride on the streets, you want to have smooth tires, or relatively smooth tires, maybe a little bit of tread.
Okay, that makes sense. So, okay, you're on your bike. What are things you should check before you get on the bike to make sure it's safe to ride?
Yes. Number one, I would say, are the brakes. Make sure all your cables are intact and not frayed, and make sure that when you grip the brakes, that the bike doesn't move and that they're working properly. And the second thing is to make sure everything is tight, like the seat and wheels and everything, and make sure that the chain is lubricated. And if you're not sure how long it's been since your bearings have been lubricated, you should probably have a bike shop check those out for you.
Okay, so what are some important safety tips that you need to know when you're bicycling?
Yes. Well, for number one, wear a helmet. Always wear a helmet, no matter where you're riding or how short a distance you're riding. Even if you're riding to the neighbors, you'd be wearing a helmet. Other safety tips when you're riding, bicyclists are considered vehicles by the Washington State Traffic Code, and so therefore you have to obey all traffic laws, such as stopping at stop signs and stoplights, and riding the same direction as as automobiles on the road. Don't ride against traffic. And try to stay off the sidewalks if you can, because those are really reserved for pedestrians. Unless the traffic is too great on a road, you might want to use the sidewalk to get through an area or something like that. But try to avoid sidewalks. And I guess that's about it, yeah.
Okay. All right, so for safety tips at night, what would you suggest people need to wear? What kind of equipment do they need to use when riding bicycles at night?
Okay, if you think you're going to be caught out at night, the minimum that you need to have is be wearing bright colored clothing, preferably white or bright yellow, and have reflectors on your bicycle. Now reflectors, they're probably a minimum, but they really are not very effective. The best thing to have is a headlight and a tail light. You've probably seen bikes with a little blinky red tail light. You can get those at Fred Meyer or wherever for relatively inexpensive. And you need a front headlight that casts a white clear beam in front of the bicycle. And then, you know, if you've got reflectors as well, that's even better.
So just a few dollars could save your life.
That's right.
All right, so let's talk about your Vancouver Bicycle Club. What are some of the resources available from joining this club?
Okay, the Vancouver Bicycle Club is a nonprofit organization, and we offer, we have a monthly newsletter where we have a ride schedule, and we put on rides throughout the year, led by volunteers, and we ride around all over in the county and sometimes into Oregon. And the schedule is also available on our website at www.vancouverbicycleclub.com, just all one word. And you can also pick up our newsletter at local bike shops and at the Marshall Center. We also have regular club meetings with guest speakers, and we have we put on a annual event ride, the Ride Around Clark County, which just took place on May 3rd, and where we ride up to 100 miles around the county. And other things that we do, we clean the I-205 bicycle trail. That's the approach trail to the I-205 bridge path, bike path. And we also have membership benefits also include getting a discount at local bicycle shops that participate and offer our members a discount. And I'm probably forgetting something, but that's most of it.
Well, you said that the bicycle club has trails that they ride on. What are some locally that Vancouver has to offer that are good to ride on?
Okay, well, there's the Discovery Trail is one that is, they're currently working on some plans to expand that. And right now it's kind of in pieces around the west side of Vancouver. There's also the Salmon Creek Trail up north. There's a variety of trails. A lot of them are, like I said, in pieces. There's a new trail down along Lower River Road, and it goes to Frenchman's Bar. And someday the Parks and Recs Department, they want to have a big network of bicycle trails, or, well, not just bicycle trails, they're multi-use trails all over the city and county. So they're working on it, and hopefully we'll have a nice network of trails.
Well, thank you so much for sharing with us today all the insider tips you have on bicycling. It was nice to having you. Now let's join David Finney, who is making us a good, healthy fruit salad for this summer.
Well, we've discussed literature and health for the summer, and now David's going to show us how to make a delicious fruit salad.
So welcome, David.
How's it going?
So before we start off, what kind of fruits do you usually use in this fruit salad?
Well, depending what time of the year it is, you can use different fruits. In the summertime, a lot of tropical fruits come in, mangoes, papayas. Right now we're going to use some strawberries, honeydew, some grapes, and I'm going to show you how to cut up this cantaloupe.
And do you put anything else in it besides just fruit?
Well, I kind of like to get away from, a lot of people like put marshmallows and weird stuff like that.
Weird.
Well, I don't like that kind of stuff. So I put some put some honey and some yogurt and cinnamon and ginger, and then sprinkle some toasted coconut over the top. Freshens it up a bit and gives it a little more flavor.
So what kind of summer events could you serve this salad at?
Well, it's really good because if you're in a hurry and you have to go to like a family event or a picnic or a barbecue, then you can throw this together in a short amount of time.
Do you use canned or fresh fruit?
I use fresh fruit. I just don't like canned fruit that much.
What are some things that you should look for, just to make sure that your fruit is fresh?
Well, with melons, if you shake them and it sounds like there's just liquid all inside it, then probably the inside of it's too ripe. Yeah, yeah, and not really good. And then strawberries, you can visually see strawberries. You don't see any like bruising on them or soft spots on them. Grapes, they'll pretty much just get mushy and really soft, so you want to keep them firm. And pretty much most of your grocery stores have got, the freshest fruit in, and they pull the older stuff off the shelf so that you don't run into that problem.
Okay, well, let's go ahead and start making our fruit salad.
Make it.
Cool, I'll show you how to cut up a melon. What you do is just take the ends off. You don't want to cut too much of the meat off, because then you'll end up with nothing left when you get done. You kind of curve the knife around and go around in a circle. You want to take most of the green off, and then try to get down to the orangish color. This takes a little bit of practice. I've been doing this for a little while now, so it makes it kind of easier. But if
You're
you
a pro.
go slow and take your time, and you can always go back over and look at it after you've trimmed it up, and take a little more of the green off. And we'll just put all the skins.
Is the green just not as tasty as
It's really bitter. It's not sweet at all. Then we're just going to cut it in half, and then we'll scrape out all the seeds in the middle. Get rid of all that because we don't want any of that stuff. And then to get nice chunks out of it, we're just going to take it and we're going to cut. Move that out of the way. We're going to cut across this way, right, just like this, and then we're going to cut lines like this right here. And then that will give us nice pieces.
Makes it easier.
Just like that right there. And then we'll just put that. We can just put this right into our bowl.
So does it matter what fruit you usually start off with, or you just throw it all in there?
No, I just throw it all in the bowl. And then I put the yogurt. We'll make that next. This is really easy. All you do, take the yogurt.
Throw it in.
Some honey. I like to use honey instead of sugar. It's more natural. I like the flavor of honey too.
Smells good.
And then some ginger and some cinnamon.
Now, how much ginger and cinnamon?
It's a quarter of a teaspoon, a quarter a cup of honey, and 1 cup of yogurt. And just blend it all together so it mixes up. Just so you don't have any lumps in it or anything like that.
This is kind of like a salad dressing for fruit.
Yeah, it is. Salad dressing for fruit, exactly. Yeah, that's good. And then we'll just throw some of that in there. Some grapes.
Do you want to have pretty even distribution of fruit in there? Like, do you not want to overload it with a bunch of mango instead of grapes?
No, yeah, you want to keep, like a nice balance. I like bigger pieces of fruit. I don't like getting salads with all these tiny little bits because then you don't get like the real flavor of each fruit. You're just
then you can't get it up with your fork
yeah,
either.
Yeah, it kind of falls off too. So we just cut the ends off in half, these strawberries, throw them in there.
Do you ever put like nuts or anything in fruit salads? Like,
you can, yeah.
I see people who put mint leaves in their salads.
Oh, really?
Some people put, and
It's good.
it's good to chop, like you could chop mint up, fresh mint, and put it into that dressing
that's what she
also.
does.
Or crumble, like really good would be like macadamia nuts. And if you crush those all up and put them in the yogurt topping, then that'd be good too. Then we're just going to put a little bit of that over the top, just like that. We'll make a little garnish. See, it doesn't take long at all. So if you're in a hurry, you got some fruit, some yogurt, some cinnamon. You can use nutmeg too. You don't have to do, you could use allspice. And just put a little strawberry on top.
What about your coconuts?
And then thank you. Almost
Can't
forgot.
forget the coconuts.
and just sprinkle a little of the toasted coconut
Now,
right
are
over.
those just, can you get those dried already like that at the grocery
No,
store?
what I did was I just got baker's coconut, like buy all the baking supplies in the grocery store, and then put it in the oven. It's at 350 degrees. You got to watch it a lot though, because it goes from being toasted to burnt in like a matter of seconds. So
Yeah.
just keep checking the oven, and when it gets nice and golden brown, then it's done, and you just pull it out, and you can sprinkle it right over the top.
Okay. Well, do you have any forks for us to...
There's a fork.
Yeah, I saw you have tons of forks over there.
There
so.
you go.
Okay,
Try it
so-
out. See what you guys think.
Okay. I think I'm just gonna...
That dressing is really good.
Thank you.
Well, thank you so much for being with us here today.
That was great. So if you want a copy of the recipe or have suggestions for future shows, be sure to call us at 313-1140 or check out our website at www.vansd.org.
We'd like to thank all of our other guests for joining us today also. And this is going to be our last edition of Smart Move for this year, and we sure hope that you had just as much fun as we did in sharing these stories.
So for the last show, I'm Christina Armento.
And I'm Katie Goki.
And thanks for watching. This has been Smart Move.